Hey guys, Sly here, and before we get into this video, I just want to let you guys know that this is actually a re-upload of a part of a series that I do on my Twitch channel called the Sly Army Tierlists, where we pretty much rank a bunch of just random topics that I'm personally interested in. And so, because of that, these opinions are not set in stone for how I feel about in the current day. And so if you guys want a more updated version of that, feel free to either check out the DeviantArt link down below or tune in on my Twitch that will also be in the description, or check out my Discord where I occasionally post some more updated versions of how I feel about certain topics. And so do keep that in mind. And also make sure to check out the description of the video itself for the timestamps for the particular topic that is presented here. But in any event, I hope you guys do at least enjoy. I recommend you guys listen to this as either like a podcast form or as just something to play in the background. But in any event, hope you guys at least enjoy. Yes, I am well aware that it's been quite a few weeks since we've done a single stream. I do apologize for that. I will have pretty much a message at the end of the stream whenever we get to that. But regardless, hey guys, welcome back to yet another Sly Army tier list. And today we are actually going to be finishing off the two-part mini-series that we did starting the last stream that we did. Basically, sort of correlating the two sort of genres that people have compared between each other, and this is what it's culminated to. So, last time we talked about grunge music. Naturally, today or tonight, depending on where you're at in the world, we are going to be talking about post-grunge. So, but yeah, no, I'm definitely excited to get into this list and just do another one of these sort of tier lists, especially since, I've been getting a little bit more into these, compared to the last couple of years, and it's definitely exciting. Now, I know I have to address the elephant in the room. Kai is not with us for this one. They ended up just not being available because of some, things or whatever, which is fine, but at the end of the day, I'm still going to try to push through to get this done because this is just a series I like doing. And considering that we're almost 2 years into doing this series, it's just kind of an awesome, experience that I've been able to do. So, but I mean, that being said, though, I will have to admit, though, this might be the last music tier list that we're going to be doing for quite some time. It's mostly just because, well, quite frankly, well, actually 2 reasons. Number one, out of all of my friend group, they aren't really as well versed when it comes to music, or at least like styles of rock music as much as I am, that's not an insult to any of my friends at all. As a matter of fact, it is really just a dedication to the types of music that they listen to, and really just showcases that they go beyond just a certain amount of music. Because I will have to admit, even myself, I do have a bit of a limited scope, but that's only just because I've always just been more into rock music anyways. It's just, that's just sort of my scene. Which there's nothing wrong with that. If you like a certain style of music, that's fine. And if you don't like rock, that's fine. Just at the end of the day, that has been kind of a limiting factor. But also, the other reason is something that is a little bit unfortunate and is a bit of a reality that I have come to realize ever since we've started doing this series. And I even addressed this a little bit in our metalcore tier list. I have noticed that there are some special snowflakes that will come in on occasion and basically just try to put down our opinions and just our takes, specifically with the music tier lists, which that's a bit off-putting if I'm gonna be honest. Because at the end of the day, I don't really see a lot of that when it comes to our other tier lists. With our gaming tier lists, I've barely seen that at all. there were maybe a few people that did it with our Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon tier lists, but it's always with our music tier lists that there's always just, at least one pretentious person who comes in here and just, gets upset about that. And I'm just going to be frankly honest. I really don't want to feel like I have to deal with that every single time we do a music tier list. It gets super annoying and it gets frustrating because this is something I want to talk about. Hell, our first stream was a modern bands tier list where we talked about a lot of popular bands from the past 3 decades. And it's just upsetting that it just feels like there's a lot of toxicity that comes with music fans. Like, again, I'm not saying that everyone's like this. As a matter of fact, I'm guarantee you that it is the minority opinion that keeps doing this. But it's become frequent enough that, quite frankly, I just don't want to bother. So, not to mention, there's only like a few other genres that I could talk about anyways. And maybe I'll do those in the future. Who knows? But as of right now, I don't want to deal with anyone who's going to be like that because I want to make sure that everyone, is as respectful as they can, even if we disagree. Because at the end of the day, we can all have disagreements. But if you're going to be a douchebag, I'm not going to accept that anymore. As a matter of fact, I have a bit of a rant that I have to talk about relating to this list a little bit later because, oh my god. But regardless though, I think that's all I really want to at least address when it comes to stuff outside of this list. Or just in general. I will say this though, regular streams will start next Saturday. As a matter of fact, I'm actually currently packing right now, as you can see right here. I just got boxes over here, and that whole shelving unit right there is just completely, empty. So I'll be back at university, hopefully by the end of hopefully by, in Wednesday or Thursday-ish. But again, I do kind of want to take a little bit of time, so I will not be streaming normally until Saturday, and pretty much from that point onwards, regular streams will go back to what they usually have been. So I know I said I was going to talk about that later, but at this point, I'd rather just address that now. So, but regardless though, I think it's about time that we introduce the topic of this particular tier list, and that is post-grunge. So, what is post-grunge? Some people are probably wondering. They probably have heard of it, and they might think it's associated with regular grunge, but they don't know. Let me explain. So, after 1994, with the death of Kurt Cobain, there were quite a few bands that were coming around at around the mid-90s-ish that took a lot of inspiration from grunge music. As a matter of fact, we even talked about a few of those bands in our last tier list, where we talked about how, after Nevermind and 10 by Nirvana and Pearl Jam, respectively, along with Facelift and Dirt by Alice in Chains, along with many other, groundbreaking albums came out, there were a subset of bands that came around that did sound like grunge, but their lyrical content was completely different from what grunge was all about. Because we talked about before that grunge was essentially the first major alternative cultural movement. Yeah, there was punk that it did exist in the 70s, but again, that was still relatively underground at the time and really wouldn't be, celebrated until several decades later. So, obviously with the rise of grunge, there were quite a few bands that took the initial idea and some of them tried to make it their own, but if I am going to be a little bit honest, a lot of these bands that would come out later down the line, they really, ironically enough, went against what grunge was initially going with, and pretty much kind of went back to the contemporary idea of, the idea of the rock star, which we addressed a little bit before, where it was about the whole idea of debauchery and, like drugs, lots of drugs, and, just living the celebrity lifestyle. That's essentially what classic rock, rock from like the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s was all about. Grunge went against that movement, but a lot of these other bands that sounded like grunge were coming around at, around 1995, 96-ish, that was basically kind of taking grunge, but applying it with that sort of mentality. That wasn't always the case. As a matter of fact, there were actually quite a few bands that continued the grunge ethos, as we'll talk about in a little bit. And they still tried to keep that in hold a little bit, but for the most part, if I'm just going to be quite honest, post-grunge in of itself is way more watered down, just in general. I know I saw that frame drop, but it is what it is. But that being said, though, even though the lyrical content and just sort of the idea of, grunge and post-grunge is different, I have a little bit of a secret to tell you guys. It really is just the same genre, just after 1994. Because the thing is that if you compare a grunge band from the early 90s, like we talked about, from a band, from like, the 2000s that was described as post-grunge, there really aren't a lot of differences. Like I said, lyrical content is different, but for the most part, it really is just the same genre, just in a different form. So, when you really, really think about it. So, I mean, that being said, culturally, it is completely different, but sonically, it's pretty similar to that. So, that being said, though, in terms of just how long, post-grunge was popular, you'd be kind of surprised with just how long it was. And granted, I remember a lot of bands that have been described as post-grunge being, really popular for actually a very long time. Because guess how long, post-grunge was considered mainstream? Because you'd be shocked. Post-grunge in and of itself started around 1995. It would remain dominant from 1997 to 2009 or 2010, depending on how many people look at it, making it technically the longest lasting rock era in history. That is insane to me. Now, granted, there's variant degrees on when it was popular. Obviously, by the late 2000s, it started to become a bit less big as it once was back in the late 90s and early 2000s, which a lot of people consider more 1997 to 2001-ish to pretty much be post-grunge's height. But keep in mind that throughout that entire decade and a half span, there were at least 4 or 5 dominant post-grunge bands during that time, which is insane to me. Granted, there are still communities in the US that still play post-grunge music to this day, and it's still relatively popular in those regions. But it really wasn't like places like Seattle or San Francisco where, like grunge was popular. A lot of this music is more popular in more rural parts of the United States. That's not particularly a complaint about rural America, that is just a plain up fact. And as a result, there has been somewhat of a nickname for this genre. And you guys know me, I don't typically like, potty humor, but let's just say, just to be frank, they typically, a lot of people do call this butt rock. It's a really dumb name, but it's essentially just, the reason why I got that name is because a lot of these bands throughout the 2000s and hell, even 2010s and nowadays got played a lot on the radio. And typically people would the radio host would be like, K9 554.5. We played nothing but rock. Get it? But rock. So, and it would typically be bands like this. Granted, there are other bands that are also considered butt rock, but are not post-grunge that are on this list. But do keep that in mind with the type of music that we're going to be talking about. So, now, as for just the general stipulations and rules for this tier list, it's actually going to be identical to, well, mostly identical to exactly like we talked about last time. So, obviously, the 3 albums or half the discography must, being the genre counts. That's what counts to be on the list. But instead, the second rule is instead of bands debuting from, 1994 back, we're going to be talking about bands that debuted from 1995 onwards. So if there's a band like the Goo Goo Dolls or Everclear or the Bare Naked Ladies or something like that, that you're confused on why that's not on this list, we talked about it last time, considering that the cutoff point on what I consider to be grunge and post-grunge is, the middle of the 90s. So just to make things a little bit more, clear, because at the end of the day, what determines a grunge and a post-grunge band does tend to get skewed a little bit. So I basically just use 1995 as a cutoff point. So, or 1994, depending on how you view things. So, but regardless, that's what we're going to be using as stipulation. Rule number 3. Like I've mentioned before, there are certain genres that I do not consider to be, genuine genres, because they get way too specific on exactly what is considered to be what part of a genre and what doesn't. And so as a result, if a band sounds like it's either a sludge, stoner rock, jangle pop, noise rock, or a Britpop band, they're just going to be lumped into post-grunge simply because those genres just sound way too similar to post-grunge or grunge, if they came before 1995, that it really just feels, out of place to feel like they should have their own lists or whatever. Because at the end of the day, if we were to do that, there would be like 90 to 100 tier lists based off of music, and quite frankly, I really don't want to do that. So we're just going to be going off of, more broad strokes. You may not like that, but at the end of the day, that's just kind of how this show rolls. So, now, I know I mentioned a little bit before as well, that, we were, like, in the last one, we kind of dabbled in the idea of, like, talking about the subtypes of post-grunge. Quite frankly, they're really just the same, except, there being, like, more, metal-based bands, more punk-based bands, more pop-influenced bands, more country-influenced bands. And then I also mentioned there being more psychedelic-based bands. That is not particularly the case with post-grunge. Ironically enough, there's actually quite a few more rap-influenced bands, also what I like to call grunge rap. You'll know what I mean when we get to a few of those groups. But, yeah, no, essentially, like I said, post-grunge and grunge, similar DNA. So as a result, most of that stuff does carry over here. So, and at the end of the day, I know I touched on this a little bit, but at the end of the day, this is just my opinion. And if you disagree with me, then that's fine. That being said, though, I have one exception to that rule because of personal experience. It's a band we've talked about before, and if you've seen our first tier list or our new metal tier list, you know exactly what the fuck is coming up, and I cannot stand that shit. So, again, for most bands, if you like them, that is completely fine. As a matter of fact, if you like what I hate, go ahead. For the most part. Again, there's only one exception, but that's only because of personal experience. So we'll get into that a little bit. But regardless, I actually do have the same amount of groups as we have had before. So 75 here. So making this another smaller tier list in comparison to our other music tier lists. This also makes it the first music tier list I'm doing solo. So yeah. But yeah, that being said, I am actually going to make this one a little bit faster compared to some of the other lists that we've done, because a lot of these bands we have talked about countless times at this point. If you want more in-depth opinions on some of these groups, go check out all of our previous tier lists, because it most likely the band that I'm gonna somewhat skim over, I probably talked about in length before. So, and my mind hasn't really changed that much. If they have changed, I will go a little bit more in depth, or if we just forgot to talk about them, then I'll go more in depth. But that's just kind of how it is. So that being said, I think that's pretty much all I need to go over. And as a result, yeah, let me just make sure the audio is working. Yep, okay, we're good. And if I need a refresher, I've got the headphones and I've got YouTube on the upper, like I've got YouTube on the side. So now I have to warn everyone on this one. I know I mentioned this a little bit because I know, there are certain snowflakes that do tend to come in here. And I think I need to give you guys a warning that this might honestly be my most negative tier list, at least music-wise. Because if I'm just going to be a little bit honest, post-grunge is one of my least favorite genres. The only reason why I'm covering it is because we talked about grunge, and it would just feel like, I would be dishonest if we were just to completely disregard this genre as a whole. That, and also there's some bands that I actually really like that we haven't really talked about that much, and this would be the opportunity for me to talk about them. But do keep in mind, I do kind of have a bias against this genre, and so this is your final warning. If you don't want to hear a lot of negativity, I would suggest leaving right the fuck now, because otherwise, you're just going to get frustrated with me. So, I just want to point that out right now, because I'm not going to pull any punches this time. I'm going to be way more harsh, especially with this first band, because I genuinely don't want to think about this band ever fucking again, because I cannot stand this band. So, this is your final warning. So, we good? Going one, going twice, going 3 times, and okay, we're going in. So, I have to fucking bring up the biggest elephant in the room here. So, let's go over the list. I'll go over the first, bands that we talked about before, but I'm not going to pull punches with this band anymore. I swear to God, the fact that Staind is literally one of the biggest bands of all time is disgusting. I'm putting them immediately in F tier. If you have seen any of my previous tier lists, you know exactly why I cannot stand this piece of shit band. I swear to God, I cannot stand Aaron Lewis as a person, or as a fucking musician, or even just any of their bullshit that they've done in the past 25 years since they even became, artists. And it's absolutely infuriating, because if I'm going to be honest as well, and this is where the exception comes in, I have not met a single Staind fan that was a good person. Because every single person that I have encountered on the internet who describes themselves as a Staind fan has been a piece of shit. I've talked about this because I posted a goddamn video on fucking TikTok. Yes, I know TikTok is dumb, but whatever. I made a joke about this band. I wasn't even attacking anyone. And for fucking weeks, at least a good 2-3 weeks, I got nothing but fucking the worst shit you would ever fucking hear a single goddamn person say about them, about anyone else. It gave me, I literally had a mental breakdown that fucking week. It got that bad, because it was nothing but constant fucking messages of me, oh, you're just trash, oh, you should just, KYS, oh, you don't know, it was horrible, and as a result, I'm sorry if you are a Stained fan and if you are a genuine person, but most likely if you are a fan of this band, similar to other groups like Baby Metal, you're kind of a piece of shit. I'm sorry. If this is the exception to my fucking rule when it comes to people liking whatever they want. If you are a fan of this fucking band, you're kind of a dipshit. And I don't fucking care. Because I've lost my patience with this fucking bullshit. So, and this is not me doing a joke. I'm being fucking serious. And if I get one more fucking message from any motherfucker on any goddamn social media about this fucking band and you're gonna trash talk me, I'm just gonna fucking block you. I'm not dealing with that shit ever fucking again. Actually, as a matter of fact, I'm gonna do something. And this is gonna be a bit of a stress relief for me. But yeah, I'm being genuinely serious. This is probably my personal least favorite band of all time. I can't stand this group. Like, again, usually I'd be joking about, disliking a band, but there are very few things that get me absolutely up the fucking wall. So, I'm sorry if, I'm being super negative, by the way. I'm genuinely not normally like this. As a matter of fact, I wish I was joking about this, but no, dude. They don't just go in F tier. They go at the very bottom of any fucking tier list. They are that bad. And I don't ever want to think about this band ever again. And this also goes with any jokes that any of my friends have made before. This is just a bit of a warning. If you've joked about the song It's Been a While to Me, please don't. I had a mental breakdown after hearing that song in particular. I can't stand that song. Because I mentioned about this before, but I had to deal with someone who wouldn't stop playing that fucking song every goddamn day. But whatever, it's fine. Whatever. At least I don't have to acknowledge this band ever fucking again. Fuck Stained, and fuck anyone who is willing to attack anyone who hates this band. So, thankfully though, it does get better from here. So, I just needed to get that out there because let's move on because that relieved a lot of stress for me. So, anyways, I'm gonna drag a bunch of bands that we have talked about before, and I am going to just give some brief thoughts about them, and then we can move on to bands that I do want to get a little bit more in depth with. So, which surprisingly though, there's actually quite a few bands that oh yeah, I'll save them for last though. There have been quite a few bands that we have talked about before. I actually made new pictures for quite a few of them as well, which is pretty nice. So, and again, I do apologize if I scared off anyone by that. It's just, you do not want to know what type of shit I had to go through. Oh wait, we haven't talked about them before. Involving that group. So, granted, I still personally think AGR is the worst band ever, but Stained is just my personal least favorite band, because it gets personal with that group. If you know what I mean. So. Oh yeah, we have talked about them before. And yeah, we've talked about you before. We definitely talked about you before. Oh no. And yeah. Alright, so the Almost. I'm still gonna put them in F tier. If you guys have seen my emo tier list, you know exactly why. Nasally vocals, really just poor production, and just overall. Granted, if you are religious, that is fine. As a matter of fact, go ahead. But I just can't personally stand it whenever a band really tries to push a religious message, especially if it starts becoming a situation where it's like, if you don't agree with us, then you can fuck off. It's like you're kind of being standoffish, but it is what it is. So I don't really have anything else to say about the Almost. Actually, hold on, let me pull that down a little bit. Yeah. I don't really have anything else to say about the Almost. They're just not really worth your time. Yeah, it has the guy from Under Oath, but it's not my thing, personally at least. So Breaking Benjamin. Oh, a part of me is a little bit glad that I am doing this solo because I am gonna pull a lot of punches against this band as well. D tier. If you guys have seen some of my other tier lists before, you know exactly why I don't really like this band. It's simply because these guys are a one-trick pony, and that one trick is beaten like a dead horse. I say that because all of their songs just sound the same. There's barely any variance between a lot of their singles. Some of them are okay, I will admit. Like, I will stand by... I noticed the ad, but I'm just going to talk anyways. I know that So Cold is actually a genuinely good song, and I do like some of the instrumentals on Saturate, but man, everything after that is just the same shit, and as a result, I just can't really defend this band. And here's a little bit of a secret. I used to like this band. And that's why I'm being more harsh on them, because I feel like so many people just defend them even though they don't really do anything with their sound. And that's unfortunate. So, if you disagree with me, that's obviously fine. But I can't stand Breaking Benjamin as much as I did anymore. So... that's my thing. I know Kai heavily disagrees with me, but again, it comes from a place where I personally just grew the fuck up and realized, yeah, no, this group's bad. So, anyways. Creed, another big band. I think I gave this band a little bit too much credit in our first tier list, because we talked about them in our very first Modern Bands tier list. They're not good. They're not. But they're not, like, terrible? I'll put them in a low C for now. I might put them down a high D. Because the thing about Creed is that a lot of people did compare them to Pearl Jam because of Scott Stapp's like vocal delivery, because he does do that sort of thing. And yeah, it did feel very derivative. But I will admit, their first album, I think from '97, I think it was My Own Prison, that had some genuinely good songs on there. And even some parts of Human Clay were fine, but man, Scott Stapp is just a personality that just really does taint the music quite a bit, because the thing is that he's kind of a doofus. I didn't really address this, but he kind of has a bit of a superiority complex, and from what I can tell, he's kind of an asshole, and that does reflect on the music, especially on With Arms Wide Open, where he kind of makes himself look like a Jesus figure. They're not a Christian band, so I'm not putting them in F tier, but it does rub me the wrong way. And let's be real here, Weathered is just not a good album, nor their 2009 record. That being said, great things would actually come from the members of Creed, but the music that is just at face value here is just not that good. So Sorry. So, what's next? Oh! Let's actually talk about a good band for once. Days of the New. Although, I am going to have to put them in a little bit of a lower tier compared to last time. I'm going to put them at a B tier because they actually did release a new album. After 20 years since their third album from 2001, they released a new album last year. I think it was around November-ish. Unfortunately, though, it is their worst album to date because it's just the lead singer by this point. Because let's just say he was a bit of a meth addict. A really big meth addict. And that resulted in just cancellation after cancellation after cancellation for decades from them being able to release a new album. And it resulted in all the other original members just leaving the band, leaving only the lead singer being the one that's left. That being said, though, I will still hold this to heart that their Yellow album and their, is it Green or Brown from 1999, those albums are superb. They are solid albums that you should seek out for yourselves. Because, oh my god, they are some of the best music of the late 90s. And it's such a damn shame that the lead singer ruined it because he found meth. So, I'm sorry. I shouldn't be smiling after this because it's just sad. It really is. Because, god damn it, they were so damn good with their craft. Especially with a lot of the acoustics or stuff. Granted, some of the lyrics, I will admit, kind of cringe, but those instrumentals and just the passion that went into those first two albums in particular, god, it's just frustrating to see them just fall. So, but yeah, that's Days of the New. Drowning Pool. So, some people were confused why these guys were not a part of the new metal tier list. Well, that's only because only their album Sinner is a new metal's album. Everything else that they've done was post-grunge, which is kind of weird, though that is the result of, unfortunately, the original lead singer passing away in 2002. Rest in peace. But unfortunately, as a result, and again, we're judging them based solely off of their post-grunge stuff, not overall. I unfortunately have to put everything that they've done after that album into an F tier. This really hurts because Sinner was a good album, but we can't really judge that. Judging everything that they've done since 2004 onwards has been mediocre at best and awful at worst. Because, again, it just is so bland and samey sounding. It's the same problem with Breaking Benjamin, but even more so with their stuff. And it's a shame because it wasted potential, but unfortunately wasted potential that they weren't able to control. And that's unfortunate. So, because I feel like they would have been, one of the better bands if they continued the new metal route. This might be a hot take, but if they did stick with new metal, they would have been way better. But they unfortunately didn't. And it shows because no one talks about their stuff after Sinner. So, again, it pains me to put them this low, but it is what it is, unfortunately. Finger 11. I think I'm gonna put these guys, for now, I'm gonna put them in a B tier. I know I also gave them the A tier. But the thing is that I will have to admit, not all their songs are perfect. But in terms of their post-grunge stuff, starting in the late 90s with their album Tip, and even their 2003 self-titled, and their album from the year 2000, it escapes my mind, which that one was kind of a new metal album as well. It was surprisingly pretty good. Like, you would be shocked how good it was. Yeah, Grace the Blue Skies. That album is genuinely solid. But a lot of people starting around Them Versus You Versus Me, a lot of people did fall off from that. I'm not one of those people who hates those albums or who hates that album. As a matter of fact, I will staunchly defend Paralyzer. Yes, I am one of those people. Because it's just a fun, catchy song that's not really meant to be taken too seriously. But yeah, no, I will admit though, their later stuff, post Them Versus You Versus Me, wasn't really that great. They kind of went into a more post-grunge pop rock fusion hybrid stuff phase, and it didn't really turn out too well as a result. Though again, I will defend a lot of their early to mid career stuff, because that stuff was genuinely pretty good. So take that for what you will. Ooh, Finger Tight. So this is a band we talked about in our emo tier list, and I'm still gonna put them in an A tier. I'm shocked that not a lot of people talk about them, and it's kind of sad because they do that emo post-hardcore with post-grunge fusion really damn good. Even though they only have one album, that album is mostly a banger. There's some duds on it, but I highly recommend you guys listen to In the Name of Progress, which is their album that they made. Solid. It's pretty good. So that's all I gotta really say. It's just seek it out for yourselves. It's awesome. So yeah. Next up. Oh no, not again. We got Flyleaf. No. Yeah, F tier. If you've also seen our emo tier list, because they're another band that tried doing that, they're basically just Christian Paramore, but way worse. Paramore's one of my favorite bands of all time, and to see a band try to follow in the coattails of what Paramore and Evanescence were doing at the time is genuinely insulting, and it's even more insulting with what happened with their original lead singer, because, long story short, she was basically manipulated into, becoming a Christian, because she was originally an atheist, but then, because of the state that she was in at the time, she was basically put into a situation where she was forced into Christianity, which, if you guys know me, I fucking hate it whenever, people emotionally manipulate people using religion. I can't stand that shit, and it drives me up the wall. So to see that happen with someone in a band like this is genuinely is pretty sad. So, granted, it doesn't seem like they're a bad person, but just that really rubs me the wrong way, because I believe in free will and I believe in what people are able to just believe in, whatever. So that being said, in terms of the music itself, yeah, I'm sorry, but she can't sing for shit, nor the other lead singer that they had. They were kind of awful in terms of lead singers. And a lot of their music, like I said, was just derivative of what Evanescence and Paramore were doing back in the day, mixed with a lot of that bland post-grunge. It's a bad fusion that just I would not recommend. So, granted, I know there's a lot of defenders of Flyleaf, and I'm sorry if I pissed you off, but yeah, no, I'm sorry. Now, that being said, oh, actually, never mind. I thought we were going to talk about another band. Godsmack. We talked about them plenty of times before, and yeah, the D tier. Boring, bland, uninspired music that a lot of people do accuse of them being an Alice in Chains ripoff. I can see why, because a lot of their, instrumentals, hell, even the name of the band, it comes from a song by Alice in Chains called Godsmack from their album Dirt. So I think I know what they were doing. And not only that, but also just a lot of their stuff that they are another one of those bands that combined post-grunge with nu metal, and it just didn't really work that well at all. Like, it, granted, again, just like Breaking Benjamin, this is another band that I used to like, but I wholeheartedly regret, because, man, this stuff was derivative. And even as late as 2018, with When Legends Rise, they have not got the plot. So, but it is what it is. So that's Godsmack for you. Hailstorm? Yeah, I'll put them in A tier. They have their faults, but generally speaking, even though they were late to the party, coming around like 2009-ish, surprisingly, they were way better than they had any right to be. Especially their second album, which escapes my mind. A lot of these albums escape my mind because I've already got to do so much goddamn research because I got to look up all this stuff. I'm sorry. Yeah, The Strange Case of. Go check that album out. Into the Wildlife was also pretty good. They also... Yeah, they released an album earlier this year. I haven't listened to it. I haven't really heard anything about it, though, which that could be a good or a bad thing. But overall, though, from what I remember, still a genuinely solid band, and I recommend them. So, also, they seem like really cool people, so I recommend. So, what I don't recommend is this next band, Hinder. Which is funny because I remember we put them in F tier, but we didn't really explain why. I'm still going to put them in F tier. But I think I should explain why. It's because, my God, this band, and I am going to take a little bit more time with them. This band, God, the lead singer, the original lead singer, he just has one of those voices that just really rubs me the wrong way. Because he's trying to sound deep, but as a result, he just sounds just gross. Like, he just sounds like... This is just one of those bands where it's just really gross to listen to. Because it's just dirty lyrics. Like, as in, like, a lot of misogyny. Even worse than Head PE. If the Head PE was pretty bad, yeah, no, Hinder just gets worse. And God, it really does make my skin crawl listening to a lot of their music, especially Lips of an Angel. Oh my God, that song. Because he's like, with lips of an angel. It's like, I can't stand. No. This is creep music, man. Like, get away from me. Just go. Just go away. Bye. And the fact that album came out the same day as Panic at the Disco's A Fever You Can't Sweat Out, and that album was bigger, arguably, is a little bit sad. Granted, I know I've shit-talked Panic recently, though with what I'm hearing with their new album, sounds like it's gonna be way better than Hinder ever fucking was. Like, again, look up the lyrics if you want, but God, it really makes my skin crawl thinking about the stuff that this band has put out. And I think part of it has to do with the fact that they are trying to not only be a post-grunge band, but also be a 2000s version of a glam rock band or a glam metal band, hair metal or whatever. Because, hair metal basically died by the super early 90s. And maybe some people felt nostalgic for that by the mid 2000s. I don't know, but either way, it just does not work. And as a result, I'm getting a phone call. Okay. Okay. All right. Oh, hello. Yeah, I kind of wanted to talk about the case of 123. Ew. Okay, I'm mostly joking, but like, man, I really don't like this band or what they represent, and as a result, just stay away. just stay away from me. I don't want you around. So again, if you like them, that's fine. As a matter of fact, you guys are Hinder fans are way more respectable than fucking Stained fans. So as a result, it is what it is. All right, well, here's a band that I have defended before, and I will admit this is a guilty pleasure of mine because I know people have shit on this band in recent years. Hell, they probably shit on this band even more than Nickelback nowadays. And that's saying a lot because Nickelback was the punching bag for a good decade. That being said, Hoobastank's not that bad. Sure, they've got their faults, and they have some stinkers, pun intended, but are they that bad? As a matter of fact, I'm putting them in A tier. They're not that bad. I genuinely don't understand, like, compared to the shit that we just talked about with Hinder and Stained and Creed a little bit, like, are they on that same level? I don't think they are. Trust me when I say this. Yes, The Reason got a lot of people groaning. I will admit, it's not even their best song, but they are more than just The Reason. And surprisingly, they're actually not a one-hit wonder. A lot of people think that they are, but they're actually not. Because they've got Crawling in the Dark, they have The Letter, they have Good Enough, they have Same Direction. Like, they have a lot of hits under their belt. Like, and obviously, you know, they're self-titled, the album The Reason, and Every Man for Themselves, they're genuinely good. I'm actually surprised that people give them more shit than some of these other bands. Because they're really not that bad. They're genuinely not that bad. If you listen to their deep cuts especially, they're surprisingly actually pretty good. Obviously, they're not the best band in the world. As a matter of fact, you will never catch me saying that they're even in my top 50 favorite bands of all time. But I don't understand the hate for this band compared to every other band on the list. Like, I genuinely don't. Like, because they actually have... It felt like it even feels like they weren't just phoning it in. Like, granted, they did go in a little bit more of an emo route, you know, by the late 2000s. You know, The Letter on, like, basically the album For Never is basically them trying to be an emo band. But, like, come on, man. They're not that bad. They're really not. Like... Besides, Doug Robb actually seems like he's a much better person than, like, probably 90% of all these bands. So, can we at least admit that? Whatever. I know I'm in the minority of this one. I know that, like, so many people hate Hoobastank. But I will die on this fucking hill that they are much better than people give them credit for. So, that's just my thing. So, anyways, let's move on to the band that a lot of people look... Oh, wait, never mind. Not the Incubus yet. We're going to have to talk about Hurt, which this is another band that I recommend. As a matter of fact, this is going to be our first S-tier band. It is sad that this band is not as well known as it is because these guys, in a lot of ways, tried to bring a lot of prog elements into their music and even like some light Baroque rock elements. And as a result, it's such a cool mix of just these different styles of music. It works way better than you actually might think it does. Because you might think post-grunge might be horrible with Baroque rock or even just prog music. But Hurt is one of the bands on this list that actually makes that mix superb. And I have to give credit where credit is due. Granted, most people probably know of their song Rapture, which is a song that I can probably gush about the content of that one alone. But overall, they are a band that I still highly recommend. Go and seek out their volume 1 and 2 albums. Those are solid just by themselves. So solid band. So all right. And then also Incubus. I know a lot of people accuse Hoopastank being a ripoff Incubus, which I can see the comparison, but like when it comes to, and honestly, I will admit Incubus is not a perfect band. A lot of their stuff from the 2010s was just not that good in comparison to what they did back in the 90s and the 2000s. But if we're going to be judging them off of Make Yourself, Morning View, Black Crow, and Light Grenades, oh yeah, I'm putting them in S tier. Especially in comparison to every other goddamn band on this list. They have everything that goes against most of these bands. So, especially if we're going to be comparing them with Morning View and Make Yourself, which are two of the best albums of the turn of the millennia. Like, they are so solid and have so many just bangers on them. You know, like Drive, the title track of Make Yourself, Warning, Nice to Know You. Like, they are a solid band. Now, I know a lot of people were also confused why they weren't a part of the new metal tier list. That's only because they only really had 2 new metal albums, being their first 2. Make Yourself is not a new metal album. As a matter of fact, it is more in line with electro rock and rap rock rather than what you might hear with a band like, Rage Against the Machine or Korn at the time. So that's why they actually count as that they don't count as new metal, but as in comparison, they count as post-grunge. As a matter of fact, this is a bit of a side tangent that I have, but why the fuck does Wikipedia consider Drive a new metal song? I swear to God, they look, they classified it as fucking new metal. This is not a new metal song. It's an acoustic ballad. Yeah, you see why I fucking hate Wikipedia, because they're literally lying to you. That's not a new metal song. It's a post-grunge acoustic song. That's what it is. It's not new metal. So, rant aside about that and how Wikipedia fucking sucks. At least music, like when it comes to like music information. I do recommend Incubus. Up until Light Grenades. Everything. 8, okay, I didn't hate 8, the most recent album, but I know a lot of people did. But they're a solid band. And compared to every other post-grunge band on this list, I do think they're one of my personal favorites. So, recommend. So, yeah. Okay, now let's talk about the poster boys of butt rock and post-grunge, Nickelback. Speaking of, I'm just gonna really give my thoughts on this one real quick. I'm gonna put them in a C tier. Yeah, they're not great, but they're not the worst band ever. Like, as a matter of fact, there's much worse bands than them. As a matter of fact, I can even defend their first couple of albums from the late 90s, though I will never say that they were ever great. At best, they were good, and they have made some stinkers. And when they were stinkers, they were pretty bad. That being said, I don't hate Nickelback. They just exist. And they kind of just exist as being like sort of the punching bag for, modern rock, which I don't think it's fully warranted. That being said, they're still going in C tier because overall, there is still more stuff that either I just don't care about or that I don't like rather than stuff that I like. And so because of that, I am putting them in the C tier. And they are going just a little bit above Creed because I'd rather listen to Nickelback than Creed. So, also, they have a lot of stuff for a reason. So, there you go. Oh, great. Puddle of Mud. F tier. they're a lot of ways they're like Stained, but unlike Stained, they don't piss me off. They are just bad, which is something that I would rather take. That being said, they're still going in F tier because what's his name? Scott Weiland, whatever. Who's the lead singer of this band? Like, God, this Wes Scantlin. That's right. Yeah, no, for whatever reason, he was trying to do that, like, you know, quasi Kurt Cobain sort of thing. How he even like tried to look like Kurt Cobain in a lot of ways, and it just looked really off-putting. And just a lot of their lyrics just make no sense at all. And yeah, everything that they've really done has just been so watered down and just so surface level that it just kind of loses all meaning. And as a result, I just don't care. And that's besides the fact of Wes Scantlin being a piece of shit for the longest time, getting constantly in trouble with the police because of like drug use, similar to Days of the New. But unlike Days of the New, Puddle of Mud never really made a good song. So even their newest stuff is not good. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. So, but it is what it is. Queens of the Stone Age, going to the stipulation of like different, you know, styles, they naturally count, and yeah, I'm gonna put them in A tier. Genuinely pretty solid band, and like obviously everyone knows, no one knows, but they're more than just that. They obviously have quite a few stuff. Granted, they're not a band that I typically listen to all the time, but I respect them enough. Yeah, Era Vulgaris. Their self-titled Songs for the Deaf. Some people hated like Clockwork, but I can defend that album. Though I will admit, Villains wasn't really that good, unfortunately. And I am very mixed when it comes to rated R, but generally speaking, they've made way more. They have way more pros than cons, and as a result, I do recommend them enough. So, solid band overall. Raw. This is a band we've talked about before. Kind of briefly, though. Yeah. I think I defended them a little bit too much because these guys actually backed up Patrick Stump of Fall Out Boy whenever he was doing his solo thing from like between 2009 and 2012. Yeah. These guys were the backups for him. And they have solid songs. Like Do You Call My Name, I'd say is pretty solid. And just that whole album from One, I think is a pretty solid album. But I wouldn't say that they're anything like amazing because they are a one-hit wonder. Though there's much worse one-hit wonders out there. So as a result, I am going to put them at a C. Though I am going to put them higher than all these other bands. So because I'd rather listen to Raw than these other groups. So. All right. Next up, we've got Seether. Sean Morgan. Amy Lee's former husband, who used to beat her up all the time. I shouldn't be laughing at that, but yeah, that's kind of true. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say other than they're D tier. Like, these guys just ripped off Soundgarden in a lot of ways. Like, and also like, yeah, every album they tried to do just sounds like a ripoff of Super Unknown, which is insulting because Super Unknown is one of my favorite grunge albums. And the fact that they kept trying to do that over and over again is pretty insulting in a lot of ways. And it's just a turnoff. Like, please stop. Not to mention, like, Sean Morgan just has one of those voices where... And he's just one of those personalities that's just too out there, if you know what I mean. Like, granted, they're not the worst thing in the world. there are some songs off of Disclaimer 1 that are okay. Like Gasoline is a fine enough song, even though it literally sounds like My Way from from Super Unknown. But I digress, because there are worse bands out there. But I can't take away from the fact that they're trying to rip off one of my favorite bands. So, yeah. I still love the picture that I made for him, though. The angry white boy look, I think, is funny. So, all right. What's up next? Oh, Shinedown. Oh, this one hurts a little bit because I put Shinedown in A tier. However, with their most recent album, Planet Zero, that just came out, I unfortunately have to put them in a B tier. So, I'm going to be honest. I think that Leave a Whisper and Us and Them. Are you... Oh, Kiki, are you okay? Are you okay? You okay? You okay? Sorry, my cat's in here. Look at him. Kiki, are you okay? You okay? He's doing fine. Come here. Yes, it's our little furry friend. Say hi to the camera. He's looking straight at the camera. I'm excited to see you. He's getting old. I'm really hoping he's doing okay. He's been coming in here a lot, so that's nice. Cause he probably senses that I'm like gonna be leaving soon, so. You good? Okay, I think he's fine. Anyways, Shinedown. Yeah. So yeah, Leave a Whisper, Us and Them, Sound of Silence, not Sound of Silence. Fuck, what's their 2008 record? Sound of Madness. That's right. And Attention, really good. Lateralis, unfortunately, was already one of the things that brought them down from being an S tier into an A tier. But unfortunately, Planet Zero brought them down from an A tier to a B tier, because a lot of the lyrical content that is going on in that album is concerning at best. Because, granted, I don't particularly know if, like, it's him criticizing people who are being, you know, the quote-unquote woke cancel culture bullshit thing, or if he's criticizing people who are using that. I need to look up the lyrics again, but from what I've heard, it is not. It's a bit unfortunate, because if I'm gonna be honest, it's a lot of miscued content, and as a result, I don't really vibe with that, and as a result, I unfortunately have to lower them down, and that sucks because they're one of the better bands. So. Again, this comes from a place of passion. So it is what it is, though. All right, next up. Oh, Since October. It's one of our meme bands that we always bring up, and they're still bad. I'm sorry, but like this is just one of those bands that just I feel bad, because like they're not really well known, but my god, you can't not make fun of this stuff, dude. Again, this is another one of those new metal post-grunge hybrid bands, for those who don't know. And they are a regular from several of our tier lists. And they just make derivative music that they're basically just Christian Breaking Benjamin in a lot of ways. But they do make it even worse by having a vocalist that just likes to do staccato style of like lyricism, because he's like, there's a part of me that's coming undone. Like, he's literally singing like that. Verbatim, that's what he's literally doing. And I feel bad, but like, man, they are just not doing good. And I don't know what to do other than say that if you want a good laugh, I guess check them out, but man, they are just not good, and I feel bad. That's all I gotta say. So, yeah. Third Eye Blind. Yeah, we talked about them a little bit before, and yeah, I gave them the C tier, but that was basing them off their entire discography. They are not a fully post-grunge band, but their first several albums are. And if we're judging them off of that, then yeah, no, I'll give them a B tier. I mean, their lead singer does seem like he's a bit of an asshole, but like, their self-titled, Blue, and Out of the Vein are solid albums. Like that, just that trinity of albums I would recommend. But after that, though, not so much, unfortunately. But they're still, they still have quite a few talent. They still have like quite a bit of talent under their belt, and as a result, I gotta give credit where credit is due. And yes, they're more than just Semi-Charmed Light and Graduate. They're more than just a 2-hit wonder, and they're not just a nostalgic band from the late 90s that people just randomly remember. They actually made some genuinely good albums. So check them out if you're interested. But mostly they're, like I said, self-titled, Blue, and Out of the Vein. They have some fucked up lyrics, though. Just keep that in mind. Yeah, no, it's pretty dark. Even though it's like happy, upbeat, grunge rap. Okay, before we move on to the next band, I do have to mention this. Yeah, grunge rap is just so funny to me, because that's exactly what bands like Third Eye Blind, Since October, and Incubus are. They basically combine grunge music with rap vocals. And as you can see, it's pretty mixed when it comes to the results. Because Incubus, I think, is pretty much on the higher tier of that sort of like sub style of grunge, or post-grunge in this particular case. But man, if it gets bad, it gets really bad. And yeah, I just think it's funny. So it is what it is, though. Unfortunately, another band that it is what it is, though, is Trapped. And yeah, no, I'm putting them in F tier. Lead singers be shit. Only one-hit wonder band. And yeah, no, lead singer is a neo-fascist, and I don't vibe with that. Fuck him. And part of me also kind of wants to put them down with Stained, because like, this man needs to shut the fuck up on Twitter. Like, dude, I swear, during like, I think it was like last year, or I think it was before the U.S. election. Not to get too political, but he would not shut the fuck up on Twitter. Like, he was kind of like the Skillet guy, where he just wouldn't stop saying dumb shit, and everyone called him out for it. And it's like, dude, you're only known for one fucking song that isn't even that good to begin with, and even more so, like, you're just doing that for attention. Like, no one gave a shit about your album from 2 years ago. It was bad, and all of your other albums are bad. So fuck off. Like, he would even respond to like the smallest people on fucking Twitter. Like, he could not take criticism. He was like fucking Quantum TV, where he just wouldn't shut the fuck up. It's like, can we move on? Like, seriously, like, can we just move on? So yeah, no, actually, yeah, I'm gonna put him down. I'm actually gonna put him even lower. I'm gonna put him in the 5th tier. We're putting him in the 5th circle of hell, because I think that's funny. So yeah, but yeah, in all seriousness though, don't listen to Trapped. There's no reason for you to. And like I said, he's literally a white supremacist, so he can fuck off for all I care. Alright, 3 Days Grace. Yeah, I'm still gonna put them in C tier. If you want my opinions on them, check out our modern bands tier list, or hell, even check our emo tier list, because they actually have enough to count, by the way. I know that's an unpopular take, but just watch that tier list if you want, that. But yeah, no, like, even during the Atom years, they were propped up by their label just so that the label can make a band that would sell well, and as a result, they obviously became big, and that's just an ethos that I really don't like. And again, this is another person who fell for that who fell for that trap. But with the power of hindsight, it really does show. And yeah. So, also everything that they've done, like, since Transit and Venus has fucking sucked. Don't at me on that one. So, even their new album. No. So, yeah, no. Part of me wants to put them in D tier, but they have just enough that works with them that they're still in C tier. But the more and more I listen to that stuff, the more and more they just get themselves dated. I don't know how my other friends feel, because they did put them up way higher than me, but I don't know, man. This is a band that just feels way too off. So, it is what it is, though. Alright, last band that we've talked about that we're going to be talking about for now is Vendetta Red. Because, yes, this band, a lot of people do recognize as being an emo band as well. They also are post-grunge and baroque rock. And, god damn it, you know what? I'm putting them in A tier. They're another band that, like, I've actually, since we've done our emo tier list, I've listened to them a lot. And my god, they are under fucking rated. Seriously, man. Like, the fact that they are underground is genuinely sad, because there are very few bands like them. And I highly recommend them, especially between the Never and the now album Advance, as well as Sisters of the Red Death. Those two albums alone bring them up to A tier. They are that damn good. Hell, even like their early 2000 stuff that they made that isn't on Spotify, you have to look it up on YouTube, which is annoying. It's genuinely pretty good. Especially, like, they're actually very similar to Sunny Day Real Estate in that they're from Seattle. They infused emo with post-grunge. And in a lot of ways, like, they really did help shape and change the genre kind of underground. So, but yeah, no, overall, I highly recommend this band. They are better than they have any right to be. And just like with Finger Tight, needs way more attention. Like, especially since I think they're actually working on a new album, which, good. Support them on that. So, I highly recommend them. So, alright. So, I know there's these two, but I kind of want to end on a positive note. So, I think what I'm going to do is I am just going to go through this just kind of in alphabetical order. And then we'll just kind of go from there. So, all right, 10 Years is our first new band that we have not talked about before. Okay. I will admit, they are better than, like, at least 70 to 80% of all these bands. Because they are another prog / post-grunge band. And that really does help them in their benefit because, it does add a lot more to their sound. That being said, they do tend to sound a little bit too generic in a lot of ways. You know, like, though I will fully admit, Through the Iris is a genuinely good album. Like, I'm surprised not a lot of people talk about that album, let alone this band, because they have like 1 million. Yeah, they have 1.3 million listeners on Spotify, or not Through the Iris, the Autumn Effect. Through the Iris is on the album, right? Yeah. And Feeding the Wolves. They are actually genuinely good albums. I highly recommend those two in particular. Though I will admit I don't want to say they're bad per se. They never made like a truly, truly bad album, except for the first one, which was surprisingly a new metal as hell album. But you know what? Fuck it. I'm putting them in A tier. Because if I listen to them more than like most of these other groups anyways, and if I were to choose between them and like, I don't know, fucking Breaking Benjamin, I'd rather take 10 years any fucking day of the week. So as a result, there you go. There. I like 10 years. I'm exposed for liking a band that has 1.3 million listeners and no one talks about. So it's also hard to search them up because, you know, it sounds like you're saying, 10 years as in a decade, but no, that's just the band name. I don't know why, but it just is. So, God, my nose is itchy. Sorry. Anyways, next up, Three Doors Down. Yeah, I'm gonna put them in D tier. These guys are the definition of a one-hit wonder. And yeah, like, okay. They're technically not a one-hit wonder because they had that other song off their second album that was big. But yeah, I wouldn't really say that they're good. I mean, they're really just they're just there. Like, yes, Kryptonite was their big song, but even then, it's not even like an amazing song. It's a serviceable song, but like, it's not anything anything to write home about, other than being like surprisingly one of the first songs to come out of the 2000s. Yeah, because it came out in January 11th of the year 2000. So maybe that's what they were trying to do, but that was their peak. The super early 2000s. We're talking like the first like 2, maybe 3 months of the year 2000. That was their peak, and they never were able to reach that point. It's partially because a lot of the music is just generic as hell, or even just worse than that. Just awful. So, I don't know. I wouldn't really recommend them outside of maybe that song, but even then, there's better songs, even in this genre. So, but it is what it is. All right. Oh, Edema. Apparently, this is Jonathan Davis of Korn's half brother. Yeah, apparently he's related to Jonathan, the lead singer, or the original lead singer was related to Jonathan Davis. Because the thing is that, like, they were kind of a new metal band, but they didn't have enough songs or really albums to really count, which is why they weren't on the new metal tier list. But they had quite a few post-grunge albums, especially like after their original lead singer left, and it was kind of weird. Like, especially their album Planets, which starts off with a new metal as hell fucking song, but the rest of the album is just watered down post-grunge. I don't know what that juxtaposition was with that first album. It sounds completely different from the rest of that album. But man, dude, the rest of the album is just bad. It's really, really, really bad. And honestly, that kind of describes the rest of their career, especially being another one of those grunge rap bands. And as a result, I'm putting them in F tier. They are just not good. Don't bother. So, yeah. Alter. Ooh, okay. We got ourselves a little bit more positivity here. Alter Bridge. See, this is what I was talking about earlier with Creed. Well, Creed itself wasn't really good. What it brought to the table actually was pretty good. This is that band. And I am going to be just fully honest. Alter Bridge is basically just Creed without Scott Stapp. Like, but that change alone really elevates them. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put them in A tier. They are surprisingly way better than people give them credit for. Like, especially their first several albums. Like, it's actually really funny that, yeah, One Day Remains. That's their first album. They had AB3 and then Blackbird. Yeah, no, it's weird. Because they made a lot of banger songs. And a lot of, like, quite a few, like, really good albums. Granted, I'm not going to put them in S tier because the thing is that, like, yeah, The Last Hero was kind of a dud album. But, like, everything else that they've worked on, I'm surprised is as good as it actually is. Like, yeah, no, I give them an A tier. So, especially, yeah, especially that first album. I just said it, fuck. Yeah, One Day Remains. And Fortress, their 2013 record. Those are pretty damn good. So I recommend all, like, their, specifically their first three, like their first 4 albums, and then Walk the Sky. The Last Hero was kind of a dud. That's their only bad album, though. Let it be known, though, that they are pretty good. So what is not good, unfortunately, is Art of Dying. Yeah, D tier. Part of me wants to put them in F tier, but to be fair, I'll put them in D tier just to have things a little bit balanced. But yeah, now this band, just similar to Hinder, just really just rubbed me the wrong way, especially with the lead vocalist of this band, because it just felt forced. And in a lot of ways, it did feel uncomfortable. It didn't make me cringe as much as Hinder did, because Hinder made me full-on cringe. Art of Dying just kind of made me uncomfortable, but it didn't make me fully cringe. Though it's kind of in that similar category where it's like, it's as butt rock as you can ever think. And yeah, no, as a result, it's not really that good. So yeah, I would recommend skipping Art of Dying. Ooh, Audio Slave. So I actually remember I made a video review on their first album before. Yeah, and for those that don't know, Audio Slave is basically the guys from Rage Against the Machine minus Zach De La Rocha working with Chris Cornell of Soundgarden. Rest in peace, obviously. And obviously, you guys know that Soundgarden and Rage Against the Machine are amongst my top 10 favorite bands of all time. And at first, you know, I will fully admit this, though. At first, I really did not like this project. I don't know what it was. Maybe I was just in a bad mood, or I was just in the wrong mood or something. But I just didn't like it as much as I did Soundgarden or Rage Against the Machine. That being said, though, I have grown on them a little bit more, and as a result, I am putting them in A tier. I don't think I will put them in S tier, though, because unfortunately, I will admit, even though I have grown on them, I still don't particularly care for their album Revelations. It just kind of felt a bit flat, and that as a result, that's probably why Audioslave kind of just quit it after that. But you know what? I have really grown on their self-titled and Out of Exile. Like, I don't know what it was, but those 2 albums just didn't click with me at first, but yeah, no. Like, I gave them too much shit. I think that they're actually pretty good. And also, let's be real here, they are way better than a lot of these post-grunge. Again, it might look like I'm giving the benefit of the doubt for a lot of post-grunge bands right now, but trust me when I say this. The C, D, and F tiers are going to get larger over time. But yeah, no, like, Chris Cornell by this point, well, older by this point, considering that it's been like, 6 years after they made their last album before Soundgarden's hiatus, he was still able to make it work. And, even though this is a lot slower of music in comparison to a lot of the stuff that Rage Against the Machine's worked before, I think the work that Tom Morello and the other boys were able to do were actually good for what it was. Oh, that's why. I think that's why I didn't really, care for this album as much, or really just this band in general at first, is because in my mind, I was thinking this was just going to be Rage Against the Machine. Obviously, that's not the case, but they don't have to be Rage Against the Machine. They can do whatever they want. But that was definitely, I think that's what, caught me off guard, just thinking about it. And as a result, I will just warn everyone, this is not Rage Against the Machine. As a matter of fact, this has more in common with Soundgarden than it does Rage. Do keep that in mind. And if you do, you'll enjoy this album. So, I keep saying album, because Audioslave is self-titled. You'll enjoy this band, for the most part. Like I said, their album Revelations, unfortunately, wasn't really that great, but Out of Exiles and their self-titled were pretty good and solid enough. So, yeah. Another band that at first I didn't really care for, but I've actually grown to appreciate, Blue October. Also A tier. Granted, I think I like them a little bit more than Audioslave, if I am going to be honest. But yeah, no, Blue October is an example of a band where at first it might seem like it would not work. Where, the lead singer has a bit more of a rhapsody, like vocal delivery. It's a lot slower music. And, that might turn a lot of people off. But surprisingly, they actually make it work. And, in terms of their, vocal delivery and the lyrical content, I'm actually surprised that they were able to make it genuine. And it just sucks though, because the lead singer at the time just was definitely in a much darker spot in the 2000s. But I think that really made the music much better. And he actually seems like he's doing much better now, which, good for him. Like, that, I actually am being serious. That's genuinely awesome that he was able to do that. So, yeah, good for him. And also, good job on making, surprisingly some of the best hidden gems from the 2000s for sure. Hell, even a little bit of the late 90s. Sorry, it's escaping my. Yeah, Hate Me and Into the Ocean are obviously their two biggest songs. Granted, they do flirt with pop rock a little bit, so do keep that in mind. But overall, yeah, no, solid group. So, yeah. All right. What's next? Oh, Cavo. I don't really have too much to say about Cavo, other than, honestly, they're kind of just a little bit forgettable. So as a result, I am going to put them in a C tier. They're serviceable enough, but they're not really anything I would really write home about, especially since they, similarly to Hailstorm, also came late to the party. The difference is that Hailstorm was able to make it their own thing, but with Cavo, it just felt like they just continued what was going on with post-grunge by that point. And as a result, I can't really give them kudo points. So I don't know. I really don't have anything else to say, if I'm going to be honest. They just exist. So, I don't know. They're also one of the few bands from Missouri, which is weird because, I don't know, states like Missouri and like Utah and Arizona just don't have a lot of bands coming out of them for whatever reason. But, well, except for Puddle Mud, they're also from fucking Missouri. Ugh. Cringe. I don't know, I just thought that was an interesting fact. But yeah, I don't know, I really don't have anything else to say about Cavo. They don't make me cringe. They make just average music. And that's it. They just exist. I wish I had more to say, but they're just kind of there. Though you could make an argument of like, oh, that makes it worse because it's just forgettable. Yeah, you can make an argument there, but just for the sake of balancing things out a little bit for the post-grunge list, I am going to put them at a C tier. So, I don't know. Alright, CKY. I'm not going to say the full name because, yeah. Yeah, these guys made the music for Jackass, I believe, interestingly enough. I think one of the guys was actually part of the cast, which is interesting. So, yeah, okay, they had like one really big song. I can't think of it. Again, I'm sorry. Yeah, 96 quite bitter beings. Yeah, that's a pretty solid song. Unfortunately, they are kind of a one-hit wonder. Though, honestly, in terms of one-hit wonders, and not only just one-hit wonders, but also just, you know, looking at their back catalog, now that I'm looking at the list of all these, like, bands, or not bands, but, like, the albums, yeah, they're solid enough to warrant a B tier. They are more on, like, that, they actually are more in line with, like, proper grunge than a lot of these other bands. And so if you are into grunge music, like you know, Melvin, Soundgarden, and Alice in Chains, that sort of grunge, you actually might like CKY because they are much more in vein with that sort of stuff. Though they aren't really anything that will knock your socks off. Outside of, you know, 96 Quiet Bitter Beginnings or whatever the fuck. So, yeah, no, I'd say overall, they do more good than bad. So, yeah. Cold. Yeah, that's a pretty appropriate name because the guy sounds like he has a cold sore whenever he sings. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I see the baby in the camera right there. But yeah, no, D tier. They're not the worst band in the world, but like, yeah, they just don't really make great music. Also, this is a weird fact. Apparently, they formed their band in 1983? What? Yeah, no. Like, you would think, like, this is a band that apparently started in the mid-80s. But it took them 15 years. Or 86, excuse me. Yeah, they were originally called I don't know what that's, I don't know how to pronounce it. And then they changed their name to Cold in 95. So why aren't they a part of the post-grunge? Why aren't they a part of the grunge list, you're probably asking? Because they didn't record any of their music before 1995. And so as a result, and also it would be an example of a band where it would just feel way too weird to put them alongside grunge. Because they don't really sound a lot like, this is one of the bands, well, yes, post-grunge and grunge do generally sound alike. This is one of the bands where it's like, they don't really even sound a lot like proper grunge. Like, it does sound like it, but just A little bit less so this time around, because they tried going for another band that tried going for a more proggy sort of sound. And now they even have like some new metal elements, but it just doesn't work, especially with that vocalist where he's like, 1, 2, 3, or come with the orchid. It's like, it just doesn't work. It's like, I don't know. Also, apparently their biggest song was written by Rivers Cuomo of Weezer, of all people. Yeah. Their song, Suffocate. No, Stupid Girl. Apparently that was written by Rivers Cuomo. I don't fucking know how. Don't ask me. Ask the record label. But whatever. So, yeah. It has a lot of Rivers Cuomo-isms in that song. And I don't know. He wrote a post-grunge song, or he helped write a post-grunge song for this band. He's not featured in it though, and again, like, just overall, the band's just kind of like meh. So, yeah, I don't recommend. I don't think I can really recommend this band that much. Granted, they're better than like the F tiers, but that's not really saying much. So, oh. Speaking of bands that just are not worth your time, Crossfade. I would have put these guys F. Oh my god. Okay. Yeah, similarly to Since October, they just are a band that tried and failed. Like, oh my god. Because they're big. They are another one-hit wonder, but man, the one-hit wonder is so funny. And surprisingly enough, it's a song called Cold. We just talked about a band that called themselves Cold. I know. But like, honestly though, that's like the ultimate dad song. I don't know why, but like every time I hear that song and watch the music video, I just think of like some like middle-aged sort of, guy in like their 40s or 50s. And them just listening to that. I don't know why. I just think it's so funny. Cause they're like, looking back at me, I see that you never even got it right. Like, it's just one of those songs that I'm actually surprised hasn't become a meme. It's so funny. Now, granted, I'm not one of those people who likes the term dad rock. I think it's actually honestly pretty cringe. But like, I wouldn't be too surprised if someone called that song in particular dad rock. I think that's hilarious. And just like Four Non-Blondes from last time, they put their one footstep forward, and then nothing. All their stuff that they did afterwards just got no attention because it's just bleh. So they're just a band that failed. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be smiling about this or even laughing about it. It's just, I just think it's funny. Because, like, God. Oh my god. So yeah, no, this is an example of a band that just left one meme of a song and just left the rest of the existence of Earth. It's funny. God, my throat is starting to hurt though, unfortunately. Damn. But yeah. Though surprisingly, we're actually getting this done relatively fast though. That's nice. Granted, it's partially because I don't really have too much to say about a lot of these bands, but overall, you are already starting to see my bias. I mean, look at what's going on with the F tiers and D tiers. Like, look at that. That is not a good sign. So, ugh. All right. Next up, no, this is Daughtry, man. Not Daughtry, man. No, 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 Daughtry. No, bad. Actually, no, they're worse than that. No, I really don't like Daughtry. Cause honestly, though, Daughtry is just the prime example on like why shows like American Idol and America's Got Talent are amongst some of the worst types of content ever, because all those shows do is promote just the worst talent ever, and look how that turned out. Daughtry turned out to be one of the worst bands of all time. And, or at least, okay, if you like Daughtry, that's fine, but like, God, it's just so fake sounding. Like, I don't know what it is, but just Daughtry itself just feels like a fake band. Like, I don't know how else to really like describe it, because it just feels like, well, it was similar to 3 Days Grace. This was another example of a band that was propped up by corporate. This time showcased live on Broadway TV, and it's genuinely insulting, especially for a lot of the bands that I've talked about before, like Vendetta Red and Fingertight. Hell, even Days of the New to a certain extent, where they tried their damnedest to make the best music that they can, and they got little to no attention at all. Meanwhile, a shitty fucking, music group like this comes around, name recognition because of an American Idol, and then bam, 1.3 million listeners on Spotify, and bam, reaching #1 on top Billboard 200 in 2006 and 7. It's genuinely sad, and honestly, I don't particularly agree with a lot of the criticisms that people say when it comes to modern rock, basically being like, oh, modern rock all freaking sucks because it's like, corporate and stuff. Unfortunately, this is ammunition that they can use, because, man, this is a prime example where I understand that criticism, and that's unfortunate, because Daughtry is just so bad. Because, again, it just feels like fake. I don't know how else to describe it. It just feels like fake music. And I just can't really vibe with it. So, it is what it is, though. Let's move on. This just makes me depressed, because all it does is just remind myself that, like, record labels and companies are willing to prop up like the worst like talent and then ignore people who are genuinely talented. So anyways, what's up next? Oh, Dishwalla. It's a really dumb name, which I don't think I've really talked about some of these names being really dumb. Like, yeah, Godsmack's a dumb name. Daughtry kind of sounds dumb, if I'm going to be honest. Hell, I will even admit this. Hoobastank is a pretty dumb name, but at least they're not as bad as some people make them out to be. But, like, Dishwalla? Like, that sounds like a disease. That being said, though, put them on my notes. Oh, yeah. I think I put them in a average band, so I'm going to put them in a C tier. They're not bad, but as a matter of fact, they're actually one of the earliest post-grunge bands, having their debut in 1995. And as a result, like, being amongst one of the earliest to come out, they're not the worst, though there are definitely way better bands than them, and they're not really remembered in the history books as a result. So I don't know, they're just kind of there. So yeah. All right, Earshot. Yeah, I think I'm gonna put them in a D tier. Okay, granted, they actually have some gems. I will fully admit that. Like, matter of fact, surprisingly, they're another band similar to Edema, where they're also kind of a new metal band, but they didn't have enough really to count. Though surprisingly enough, I'd say that their new metal stuff holds up a little bit more. Like, though they are a one-hit wonder band, though they're new metal, it's a new metal song, so we're not really judging them off of that. But okay, I don't know. They're just kind of like they're like in between a C and a D. Like they're on the verge of being a bad band, but they're not the worst. I don't know. I'll put them in a D tier for now because I will admit the lead singer just doesn't really have a good vocal delivery. Because he's sounding like this when he's singing. So, I don't know. It is what it is, though. So, just eh. Eve 6. Honestly, kind of a similar problem with Earshot now I think about it. Specifically, the lead singer problem. And they also have really bad lyrics. Like, I don't know. Their biggest song was it? Yeah, Inside Out. Though they are not a one-hit wonder. They have a couple of other singles, like Here's to the Night, Think Twice, and Promise. Also, they're kind of a pop-punk band as well. So they have a little bit of spice to them. Though, man, those lyrics are just so bland. But I don't know. In terms of, like, post-grunge goes, there's much worse, as you can see. So because of that, I am going to put them in a C tier. They're not a band that I would really go back to. But they have their moments, I guess. So I don't know. That's all I've got to really just say. If that makes sense. But I don't know. The Xyz. It's another kind of a dumb name, if I'm gonna be honest. And yeah, they're very similar to Art of Dying, and because of that, I'm putting them in D tier. I don't know. Granted, I might be a little bit biased. Like, I am showing my bias, at least a little bit. But I just don't really like that type of culture. Like, okay, if you like that stuff, that's fine. Like, if you like the whole, like, Midwest Southern Americana style, then more power to you, but I just really get rubbed the wrong way every time I'm reminded that it exists. Simply just because, granted, I think I might be biased because of just personal experience, but it just feels like douchebag culture in a lot of ways. I'm not saying everyone who likes that is a douchebag, but like, it just feels it just feels like a lot of that stuff is rooted in a lot of prejudice ideas. And I'm not just talking about racist, sexist, homophobic stuff. I'm just talking like even just against outsiders, as in like people who aren't a part of that group. I don't know. It really just rubs me the wrong way. And that's kind of what bands like the Xyz and Art of Dying kind of remind me of. I don't know. It might just be butt rock culture in general. I really just don't like that sort of vibe. So I'm not like, obviously a lot of the people who are in these bands, from what I can tell, they like, not all of them are assholes. Matter of fact, apparently the lead singer from Hinder, the original lead singer, actually seemed like they were pretty chill. And hell, even Soli Irma seems like he's a pretty good guy. And hell, even as much as I shit on Breaking Benjamin, Benjamin Burley at least seems like he's fine. But some of these other bands that sort of have this sort of southern rock sort of look, it just rubs me the wrong way. I don't know how else to really describe it. It just makes me feel like I'm not really welcome around those people. So, as for the music itself, it's literally the same thing as Art Dying. Just, you know, I want like, I don't know, just that sort of stuff. Almost to the point of cringe, though not as bad as Hinder. So, but their thing. All right, next up, Theater. Yeah, okay, this is one of those bands that's kind of post-grunge, while also a lot of people describing it as post-Britpop, though, again, like we mentioned before, with the grunge tier list, I'm just combining Britpop here, because a lot of Britpop just sounds like grunge. It was basically just made to go against Americanized, you know, rock music or whatever the fuck. Even though a lot of the bands sounded like grunge. Good job. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying you just ended up making grunge music. As for Feeder, I was a little bit surprised with what I heard. I'm going to put them in a B tier. They're not amazing. They're not like anything that I would say they're like, you know, top tier or whatever. But yeah, no, like I'm actually surprised with what I heard. I thought that the music that they made surprisingly actually, you know, not just catchy, but like a little bit deeper than I would have thought. And because I would have thought it would have just been very similar to a lot of their American counterparts. Because again, this is a band from Wales, so different, you know, some differences there. But I think that actually works for their benefit because they aren't associated with that sort of, you know, rural Americana sort of thing, and I think it really does help with their case. So. That being said, I do need to listen to a few more of their albums because I listened to their first album from '95, and from what I heard, surprisingly pretty good. Though I would want to listen to them a little bit more to see if they're, you know, a solid band. So, but yeah, no, that's a thing. Then there's Filter, which. Okay, I'm mixed on Filter because they are a band that combines post-grunge with electronic music. So, yeah, and I will admit, I did not like this guy's vocals at first, though it might have just been something else, because the instrumentals are actually surprisingly pretty good, because again, they have an interesting, you know, fusion between electronic and post-grunge, which is a mix that isn't really a thing. So yeah, I think in their case, though, I think I like them a little bit less. So I am going to put them at a C, but I'm going to put them at a high C. I just need to listen to a few more of their songs for me to see if they really deserve to be, you know, amongst like up here. So that's basically it. So that's a thing. Fireflight, F. They are another Christian band, similar to Flyleaf. As a matter of fact, I think, surprisingly enough, I think Fireflight came around to be a ripoff of Flyleaf. So you probably know how that's going to turn out. And yeah, no, it's really nothing. They're really just another shitty Christian rock band that tried so hard to be cool and hip and all that stuff, when in actuality, you're just trying too hard. And not only did you try too hard, but also just the band just lacked soul. It just lacked like any sort of passion behind what they were making. It just felt like that they were just making it just for the sake of, you know, doing a quick buck. Though
probably not the smartest move on their part, because by the time they came out, post-grunge was already starting to die off, because they came around the late 2000s, and yeah, kinda not the best time to do post-grunge. Again, like I said, Hailstorm was pretty much the exception to that, but do keep in mind that by 2006 and 7-ish, if you were still doing post-grunge and you were a relatively newer band, odds were that you were not going to do well. So, and that's what I just want to exemplify here, at least. So, but yeah, no, don't listen to Firefly or Fireflight. Yeah, it's Fireflight. It's also, that's a dumb name too. I don't know. Yeah, even the name sounds like it's trying too hard to be like sounding like Flyleaf. It's like, why even try? But whatever. All right, Fuel. Yeah, it's another one of these like sort of rural Americana style of bands, and yeah, I'm gonna put them in D tier. Granted, they are not all that bad, because I think the instrumentals off of their song Shimmer, which was their biggest song, actually was pretty good for what it was. But everything else is just bland and forgettable about this band. And I don't know, the music just doesn't work overall. Because again, it just feels like a big mesh of just whatever they wanted to come up with. So take that for what you will. I know something like Human was big, but like, no, it wasn't really like anything special. Again, it just felt like it was just so samey. So, granted, there were a few other tracks. I will fully admit, though, Sunburn was another album, like, was probably I'd say, if you want an okay album, Sunburn is probably the only album I could mostly recommend, but with a major asterisk behind it, because even then, it's a deeply flawed album, and again, the rest of the stuff that they made throughout the 2000s, I just wouldn't recommend. So, yeah, it is what it is. All right, Kylisa. So, similar to CKY, they're another one of the bands that honestly wouldn't really feel too off from being considered genuine grunge. Because they have the benefit of, being similar to a band like Kiyus or the Melvins, or takes, the quote-unquote stoner approach, and they sound a lot more metal as a result. And you know what? I think I'm gonna put them in a B tier. I think that they actually have some genuinely good gems. They are a deeply flawed band, but Time Will Feel Its Worth and Static Tensions, I think, are solid enough for them to warrant the B tier. So, yeah, they just recently re-added them back to Spotify. I don't know, like, I think I know why they originally added this, because of the whole Spotify thing, which I know that's a whole thing. Ugh. But yeah, no, I don't think that they are bad. They are solid enough, though just solid enough to be in B tier. They are a deeply flawed band, and outside of those two albums, it is hit or miss. And also they do go into a more doom metal style as well. So they aren't just solely a grunge adjacent band. They do go into like a heavy metal, doom metal, almost even like, oddly enough, death metal sort of mix. I know that's kind of a weird hodgepodge of different like ideas. So, and again, the reason why they're post-grunge is because they came after 1994. So, because of that, they naturally have to be a part of this list. So, they are the most out there band on this list. But if you are interested in that, go check them out. So, yeah. Lifehouse. This is probably gonna piss some people off, but yeah, F tier. I just never cared. I'm sorry. This is just one of those bands where I never really clicked with, and I just don't really. It's not even that the music itself is bad, but it's kind of a Breaking Benjamin issue with me, where they just make the same sounding shit over and over and over again. That, and also, I'm pretty sure at some point they were also a Christian band. I don't think they are anymore, but yeah, that obviously rubs me the wrong way. And I don't vibe with that at all. So, yeah. I don't really have anything else to say other than, like, if you like this band, because I know a lot of people do, that is fine. This is just an example of a band that is just a band that is not for me because I just don't click with them. Actually, as a matter of fact, I think I might as well get this one out of the way now I think about it, because this one's going to piss a lot of people off, including a few of my friends. Well, not necessarily piss off my friends, but like raise a lot of eyebrows. But Switchfoot, I'm sorry. I am sorry that I am putting one of the most respected bands of this genre in F tier. It's mostly, though, because of the lyrical content. They are also a Christian band, and the thing is that, like, I have to stick to my principles, and just because I know there's going to be one nitpicking asshole who's going to be like, oh, you put this band here, you're secretly a Christian, because I've had that shit happen before, and it was fucking annoying to deal with. And so naturally, I kind of have to stick to my principles and put, like, even if the instrumentals are good, and even if the people themselves are trying their best, I'm sorry, but it's just the lyrics are what get to me, and it's something that will always rub me the wrong way. You may not agree with me on that, and that is completely fine, but I just, you know, it's just, again, it comes from a place of just really just not liking Christian rock, let alone just really Christian media. Because let's be real here, 99% of like media that ties itself with Christianity or just religion in general, it doesn't have to be Christianity. It could be Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, Shintoism, for all I fucking care. It's really cringe, because it just feels so forced in, and it just feels like it's media, or it basically treats you like, if you don't agree with this, then you're morally wrong. And that's why I can't stand it, where even if there's a band like Switchfoot that is less, that does that less, it just still carries that stigma with it. Especially considering the fact in the new metal tier list, we talked about a lot of, and the metalcore tier list, where we talked about a lot of bands that were definitely like that, and it was cringe with that, and unfortunately, it really ruins that for me with this band. I'm sorry. I am genuinely sorry, because I tried to like both of these bands, but because of that messaging, it's just a huge turnoff for me. So, if you like them, that is completely fine. Just don't be like Stained fans. That's all I ask. So, yeah. All right, let's move on before people actually start hating on me. Local H. This was kind of a dumb name too. Local H, like local what? Hash browns, like local hill. What does the H stand for? But whatever. Also, this one kind of has a weird, like, I remember the song. What was it? They're another one-hit wonder. Born for the Floor. Or Bound for the Floor, excuse me. It's not a bad song. I actually really like the song. And they have a couple of other songs off of that album, As Good as Dead. Yeah, it has that like mid 90s sort of like family photo look to it. I don't know. It's kind of funny though. But also I thought that originally it was like a younger picture of Macaulay Culkin on the cover, but apparently it's not. But I am gonna put them in a C tier though I will put them in high C because they do have quite a few gems, but there's just not really enough there for me to really justify them being above a C tier. Would I listen to them more than all the other bands below them? Yes. Would I listen to them, compared to other bands like Incubus or Hurt or Date of the New? No. So, though I actually am pretty sure I think this is the first, technically chronologically the first band on this list, like, because I think they released their debut, because they're 90. Yeah, As Good as Dead, that's not their first album. Ham Fisted is their first album, which came out in 95. I think that came out in like January or February of 95, making this technically the first post-grunge band. I only like in that January of 1995. So they barely missed the mark of being a grunge band. Though there's some sources that basically just lump them in with grunge, but if we have to be consistent with the list, I'm sorry, but they are post-grunge just for the sake of talking about this. And yes, that does mean that Bush is a grunge band because they released their album, I think, on Christmas Eve of 94. Yes, I know that's a month difference between this band and Bush. But again, there has to be a cutoff between grunge and post-grunge. So, as for Local H, like I said, they're fine. I might need to listen to them a little bit more, though, like Filter. Though, from what I heard, I wouldn't say that they are amazing outside of Bound to the Floor. And again, like I said, they're kind of a one-hit wonder, so it is what it is. All right, Marcy Playground. I think I'm also gonna put them in C tier, though way less so that way lower so than Local H. Their music just sounds too generic to me. Like, it just feels not necessarily derivative, but just kind of lacks that oomph that I was hoping to listen to with this band. Because they came around was it mid or late 90s? I know it was at some point in the 90s. Okay, we'll just say the 90s. So they came around in the 90s, and they only really peaked in the 90s. They didn't, like, similar to Local H, they don't really have a big single outside of Sex and Candy. Everything else that they made was just kind of forgotten in the dustbins of history. So, granted, maybe I just haven't really listened to a lot of their stuff. Maybe it's another situation where it's like, it's like local H, but from what I listened to with their self-titled, I was not impressed. Also, their self-titled has a really creepy album cover that just gives me bad vibes. So I don't think I really want to anyways. So yeah. Oh, here we go. This is a band. Here's another bit of a meme band, at least for me in the past like year or so. Matchbox 20. Oh god. So this band has become a bit of an inside joke for me, because I felt like I've heard their song 3 a.m. so many fucking times in the past like year or two. Which I think is funny. It's not a bad song. As a matter of fact, I like the song, but I just think it's so funny that I've heard that song played so many times, whether it be in restaurants, whether it be at the rec center that I went to at university, or even like on the radio twice while like driving from like here to uni. I think it's fucking hilarious. So that, and also like just Rob Thomas, a man with 2 first names, by the way, just being a character. Like, I don't know why, but just he's just an enigma to me. He really is. So I mean, and I don't know. Okay, I will admit this though. I don't know if I ever really liked. Like, I can't tell if I like or hate his voice, because he has that Eddie Vedder, derivative delivery with him. Because he's like, only speak with raining and screams, and her voice is straining. Like, I don't know if I like it or not. Like, he even did it with his Santana feature. Because yeah, he sung within that one song that Santana made. So I don't know how I feel about this. Okay, you know what? Fuck it. I'm putting them in B tier. Because if I am going to be honest, their first 2 albums are genuinely good. What's their first album again? Sorry, it's the one with 3 AM on it. Yeah, Yourself or Someone Like You. That album is a genuine banger of an album. Hell, I even liked Mad Season, their second album that came out like, several years after. Like they had a sweet spot in the late 90s and the super early 2000s, but you know what? They get a pass. Like, yes, like Darwin's Waiting Room, they might be a bit of a meme band for me, but like at the end of the day, they're not bad. Like, there's much, like, they have some genuine, like, really good songs, and albums for that matter. But man, just can we please play something that isn't just 3 a.m.? Like, you're trying to turn them into a butt rock band, even though they don't sound like a butt rock band. So, come on, radio stations. So, I don't know. I'm smiling in this case because I think it's funny. So, in a good way, not in like a making fun of the band. So, maybe a little bit, but it comes from a place of good heart. Well, the fun could only last so long because it's about time we talk about My Darkest Days. This band is hot garbage. F tier. And I mean garbage. So, yeah, this goes back into the cringe territory, as a matter of fact. Because very similarly to Hinder, this is another band that just makes me really cringe with the lyrical content. I swear, this is just so disgusting, man. Like, especially that feature with Zach Wilde. Yeah, Zach Wilde helped make a song for this band, and it's disgusting. Like, it's because again, it goes into like misogynistic bullshit, and it's like, and that just sort of, you know, southern rock culture even more that I can't stand, man. It just it really makes me gross just thinking about this band. Like, I don't know how else to describe it other than just ew. So yeah, I want to move on. No, don't listen to My Dark State, especially since they were super late to the party. 2010, really? You think you're gonna do post-grunge in 2010? Like, you're already like 2 decades removed from grunge. Why would you want to continue that legacy by this point? Like, I don't know. This was a bizarre decision that the band made, and as a result, it's cringe, man. It's really bad. I'm sorry. It's just let's move on. Alright, Oleander. Again, D tier. Same problem with Fuel, where it just doesn't feel genuine. Okay. Same problem with Daughtry, though a little bit better than Daughtry, where it just doesn't feel genuine, but it has the Fuel problem as well, where it's like, it's that culture and just sort of that blandness and just nothing really going for them. Granted, they're not the worst band on this list, as you can clearly see. Well, Stained is the worst fucking band on this list, but like, they're not terrible. It's just, they're not good. They're just kind of dull and just bland. And I know I keep saying that for a lot of these bands, but like, that's the biggest crux with post-grunge, is that a lot of these bands just genuinely just sound the same. Like, more so than nu metal and metalcore. And as a result, there's just a lot of just bands that exist that might get a radio hit or two, and that might bring them up, but just everything else that they made is just filler. And that's my biggest issue. And Oleander is just another example of a band that's literally just nothing but filler. And it just makes you just kind of not, like, it makes you feel like you're just wasting your time, you know? Like, I don't know how else to describe it. They just kind of suck. So, I'm sorry, it just, that's how I feel. So, yeah. Alright, good. Surprisingly, though, we're actually getting through this really fast, which is good. So, but alas, oh yeah, Perfect Circle, hell yeah. So, we talked about Tool last time, and I think it's only natural for us to talk about Perfect Circle, because unlike Tool, where some people classify them as grunge, but not a lot of people. A lot of people do classify Perfect Circle as post-grunge. So, and they have the songs that back it up. And yeah, no, I'm going to put them in A tier. I would put them in S tier if their covers album, Evolve, I think is what it was called. If that album didn't suck, they would be an S tier. Like, their first album, I'm sorry, again, there's just so many bands that it just kind of gets, a lot of these just get lost. Yeah, Murder Norms, or Murder Noms. That song, that album itself is a banger. 13th Step as well. Hell, Eat the Elephant, that they made like over a decade after everything that they've done before. Those are genuinely really good albums. Like I said, the only reason why they're not an S tier is because Emotive, their covers album, unfortunately, was just so bad that it left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, including myself. So, which is unfortunate. But Murdered Arms and 13th Step, I hold up in really high regard as being amongst some of the best prog and post-grunge music out there. So, again, we're talking about some of the same people from Tool working on this. So, you know it's going to be good. I think, who else was a part of this project? Because A Perfect Circle was a super group. So, it consisted of members of more than just Tool. So... Oh yeah. It also featured a few of the members from Smashing Pumpkins, and Tim Alexander of Primus was also a part of this project. So, and Jordy White from Marilyn Manson's band. Yeah. So we got some pretty decent names attached to this project, and you can probably guess the quality of it. The stuff that they made in the early 2000s, like I said, their first 2 albums, solid. So, yeah, I would recommend this, especially since a lot of the biggest names of 90s rock was attached to this project. So, good. All right, what's next? Oh, the Presidents of the United States of America. Yeah, it's the long named band, I know. So, I know a lot of people do really, really like this band. Unfortunately, though, I have to be one of those people who has to say that they are unfortunately a bit overrated. Because they're kind of a two-hit wonder. Which, don't get me wrong, those 2 songs, Lump and the other one, yeah, Peaches, those were pretty good. Yes, they're weird, but people forget that the 90s had some weird-ass music. So, as a result, yeah, they had some weird shit. That being said, though, I'm not gonna lie, but like a lot of the stuff that they worked on after that initial album was pretty hit or miss. As a matter of fact, a lot of their stuff I would even say got pretty bad, especially their album Love Everybody. That's just a bad album. Also, they're not fully a post-grunge band. They are also a band that has a lot of pop-punk influences. So, if we ever do a pop-punk tier list, maybe we'll have them. Though, again, I'm not going to guarantee that happening just for personal reasons. But yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to put them in a C tier. I just didn't click with them as much. Though I am going to put them in like a mid to high C. They're just not as good as the rest of their other contemporaries that are above them. Simply because they might have one amazing album, but the rest of their stuff is extremely hit or miss. And if we're contributing that with their post-grunge stuff, it brings them down even less so. So, I don't know. Like, maybe I just need to click with them a little bit more. But they're just not there. If that makes sense. So, oh no. And honestly, I actually have very similar sentiment with the band Priestess. Yes, these guys, similar to Kylisa and Queens of the Stone Age, are also kind of more on the metal side. And they are a one-hit wonder. In this case, their song Lay Down, which was really big on Guitar Hero 3, which I'm not gonna lie, that song actually slaps. Everything else, though, is... So, yeah, I'm gonna put them in a C tier. Again, it's the same exact feelings that I have with Presidents of the United States of America. Except in this case, it's really only a couple of songs rather than, like, you know, a full-on album. Because they only had 2 albums released. So, not a bad band. And they, like I said, they have the talent, but they're a one-hit wonder. And that sucks. So, also kind of more classic rock inspired as well. Which I can take or leave. You guys know my opinions on classic rock. I just don't really care for anything before the grunge era. all that much. So, which is why we're covering the eras on when like certain rock genres were popular, for modern rock at least. All right, Red Fang. Funny enough, very similar sentiments. C tier. In this case, though, I think they have a little bit more going with them than Priestess because they have a bigger catalog. And I do think that their first album, which is a self-titled album, was spot on. Like, yeah. They're self-titled from 2009. That was a pretty good album. Because it has Prehistoric Dog on it and Reverse Thunder, which I thought those songs were pretty good. I think I even liked Night Destroyer as well. Yeah, I like these songs. And even their parts of their, next couple of albums were pretty good. Murder of the Mountains, Whales and Leeches, and the oh my god, why am I? Yeah, Only Ghosts. There's hints and songs that are good across like the span of those albums, and so naturally, as a result, I am putting them I am giving them the benefit of the doubt, at least a little. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm gonna put them in B tier because they have a little bit more going for them rather than just a couple of handful of songs compared to some of these other bands. So, though they did kind of drop it a little bit with their new album, in my opinion, it just didn't sonically sound that great. So, I don't know, maybe that hiatus wasn't really the best for them after all. Because, yeah, they were on hiatus from 2017 to 2021. So, yep. Alright, okay, Red, another Christian band, so you know exactly where this is going, except in this particular case, it goes even more on the cringe. So, yeah, no, the feelings that I have with Red are very similar feelings that I have with a band like 1,000 Foot Crutch. So, I don't think I really need to explain what I mean by that, because, yeah, no. This is just not it, Chief. So, yeah. I feel like if I were to explain a little bit more, I feel like I would be repeating myself, similar to Fireflight and Flyleaf. All you need to know is that it's Christian rock, but they do it in a very even more cringy way, and they have a vocalist that just doesn't really know how to sing, and they have really piss poor production. So, and also just, again, those lyrics, man. Trust me, once you look up those lyrics, you know exactly what I mean by the cringe. So, which, by the way, I feel like I should pretty much dub a new sort of like genre. More, not like an actual genre, but just sort of a joke genre. I think I'm going to invoke this genre called cringecore, where it's basically music that invokes physical cringe when you listen to the music itself. And that's exactly what Red and Hinder and My Darkest Days invoke on me. It's just physical cringe, as well as 1,000 Foot Grudge and Godsmack to a lesser extent. So yeah, no, cringecore. That's pretty much what this shit is, and it's awful. So yeah, but yeah, no, it's really bad. I wouldn't recommend Red at all. Actually, I'm gonna go a little bit faster. Revis and Rev Theory. I'm gonna put both of. Actually, okay, I'm gonna put Revis in D tier and Rev Theory in C tier. Revis, again, I would just say the same thing as Oleander and Fuel and the Xyz. All these bands are basically just the same. So that's all you know about Revis. As for Rev Theory, though, they have a couple of songs that I actually really like. specifically on their first album from 2005. Yeah. Truth is Currency. Which they do infuse some new metal elements on that album, which did spice things up a little bit, at least for me. But everything else that they have done, unfortunately, I would really not recommend, because it's just boring and generic post-grunge mixed with, like, you know, hard butt rock, and it's just not that good. So, though they do get points for their first album. So, sorry, God, my nose is just not working with me today. How unfortunate. So, oh no, going back to cringecore, no. Saving Abel. Ew. Actually, I'm putting them down with you guys. Ew. Yeah, you're starting to see the problem now. Like, ew. Yeah. Take My Darkest Days. And Hinder. Rise the cringe factor by 10. It's so bad. And they came out in 2008. Again, a little bit too late to the party, don't you think? Like, seriously, their song Addicted alone tells you everything you need to know about this band. Like, yeah, no, this is cringecore. This is absolute cringecore. No. I don't want to think about it. Let's move on. No. It's disgusting music, too. Like, come on. I want to get out of this, please. I don't want the cringe invoked on me. Okay, good. Oh my god. Oh my god. We've got actually quite a few decent bands coming up next. Okay. Semisonic. Okay. We saved ourselves from the cringe. Because this band, you know what? I'm giving them the beats here. Actually, I'm going to be nice and putting them the high beat. Actually? Okay, we'll go with beats here for now. Yes, they are mostly known for Closing Time and Secret Smile, but they are more than just both of those songs. Very similarly to, funny enough, Red Fang, they actually have quite a bit to their catalog that makes them stand out. They're actually not that different from Matchbox 20, though I actually like this lead singer way more than Rob Thomas. I forget his name, though. Hold on. What's his name? God damn it! Why is there no band member list? Oh, Dan Wilson. Yeah. This is yeah, he's the lead singer, and honestly, he actually seems like he's a pretty cool guy. Though it is kind of weird seeing like pictures of him now, because I'm just so used to him looking so much younger. So, not to disrespect him, of course, but yeah, no, honestly, if you want like a decent time, I'd recommend you guys listen to some Semisonic, even just outside of them being a two-hit wonder. Because yeah, their 96 record, which came out before those songs came out, surprisingly pretty deep. In a lot of ways, they actually have a lot of similar tones to like a band like Blue October, in that they genuinely do feel like they're passionate about the music that they're working with. It just sucks that they were only around for just a handful of years, or at least like making music. They actually just reunited with each other not too long ago, though I don't know how long that's going to last. But yeah, no, I recommend them, though with an asterisk. So yeah. What's up next? Oh, Sick Puppies. You know what? I'm also gonna put them in B tier. They have their cringy and cheesy moments at points, but in terms of post-grunge bands, you can do much worse. And honestly, I will admit this: there are some songs that I genuinely do like from Sick Puppies. All the Same comes to mind, or at least to my mind. And Riptide, yeah, their albums Dressed Up as Life and Tripolar, I think those are actually pretty damn good, coming out of the late 2000s, right? Yeah, late 2000s. And yeah, hell, even like their 2016 record, which doesn't have the original lead singer anymore, which I don't know what's all that's all about. Which, oh wait, hold on. I think I just reminded myself. Did the lead singer do something? I forgot. Like, I don't know. I feel like there was a fall. Yeah. There was a fallout between um Shyman Moore, the original lead singer, and the rest of the band. And now it's Emma. Oh wait, no, Brian Scott, who's now the lead singer for the group. So, but yeah, this one, yeah, I don't know. Overall, though, I think they're fine. Though it's kind of weird because they started off as a nu metal band, and a really shitty nu metal band at that. So yeah, but yeah, no, this is an example of a band where it's like the opposite of Drowning Pool, where it's like it was best for them to move on from nu metal to post grunge, as opposed to staying with the crappy nu metal. And I mean really crappy nu metal. Like seriously, Welcome to the Real World is really bad. Like it's cheesy bad, but it's still bad. But they are a band that did improve dramatically, and as a result, I can respect that. So they might not be the best band, but you know what? I'll give them a pass. So yeah. All right. Oh yeah, we're gonna save them. We're gonna save all three of these later. Super Drag. Honestly, I don't really have anything else to say. I've got C tier, I guess. They are similar to Priestess, and they're actually very similar to Feeder also as well. Like kind of a mix between like Priestess and Feeder, where they kind of go for a more experimental, poppy sort of sound, while also paying tribute to classic rock. I need to listen to them a little bit more, but from what I've heard, they're okay. So they exist. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say other than they're around. So yeah, though I am gonna put them in the middle of a C just so that it looks like they're not like lower. So yeah. All right, Tantric. This one's annoying because Tantric had signs that they were going to be much better than they ended up being, because they're not an awful band. As a matter of fact, I will admit parts of their self-titled. Excuse me. God, my nose today. Fuck. Okay. Okay, maybe it's partially because of the clothing. Actually, I'm gonna take this off. That's probably partially what's going on. So, I'm so sorry about that. But anyways, Tantric. They had signs of actually being much better than they ended up being. Because their self-titled was actually not that bad. Even though Breakdown is annoying as hell to listen to. But yeah, no, that's really their only album I would recommend. It's kind of like Drowning Pool in the sense that, like, they had that one good album and then everything else just sucked. And that's unfortunate. So, because of that, I have to put them in a D tier. Though, a little bit higher of a D tier. So, I'd rather listen to them than Breaking Benjamin because I'm just sick and tired of Breaking Benjamin. But, yeah, unfortunately, just lower on the totem pole. So, that is unfortunate. So, also, the lead singer has a really weird vocal delivery where he's like, I know the let go, the breakdown. Like, it sounds weird. It's not exactly like that, but if you listen to it, you know exactly what I mean. So, it is what it is. Theory of a Dead Man. Yeah, I think you guys know exactly where this is going. F tier. Garbage band. Garbage. And again, low-key pretty cringe. And also, the lead singer is pretty sexist. And yeah, actually, you know, as a matter of fact, fuck it. I'm putting him down here with these guys. Because, like, we don't accept sexism here. So, yeah, no. Lame band. Very similar to Hinder and My Darkest Days. Granted, the lyrics aren't that cringe, but it teeters the line of being fully cringe. And it's actually kind of sad because this band is essentially a knockoff of Nickelback in many different ways, and in many of those ways, they are way more cringier than Nickelback ever was, even though Nickelback has Photograph. Yes, that song is memed, but I'd rather listen to that than anything that Theory has ever made. They are that bad. Like, oh my god. Like, especially, I don't know, the lead singer just has a really bad case of just colditis. Like, he has the same problem as the lead singer of Cold, where he just does not have a good vocal style. So, and it's very reflective on the type of music that they make. So, yeah, and also just, it just is annoying as well, because I even remember some of these songs being big, like, in the 2000s. Yeah, I was a kid, and I probably shouldn't have listened to that stuff. I didn't, but it was just on the radio. And, you know, my cousins and my uncle were listening to that a lot. But, yeah, no, like, this is just bad. This is just bad music. Because it's just so soulless. It's just cashing in on the popularity of Nickelback in that decade. And the lyrics, man, no. It gets Saving Abel bad sometimes. Again, I wouldn't say they're as cringe, but they're definitely cringe-core regardless. So, yeah, no, don't listen to Theory. It's bad music. And like I said, the lead singer's a piece of shit. So, oh wait, I forgot. They're not called Theory of a Dead Man anymore. They're just called Theory. I forgot about that. I'm sorry to slander the good name of what's his face. Who's the lead singer? Yeah, Tyler Conley. Not to slander the good name of Tyler Conley, but yeah, no. Oh yeah, that's what those albums were called. Gasoline and then Scars and Souvenirs. Hell no, those albums were trash. And then Say No yeah. Say Nothing from a few years ago. Don't listen to this band. It's bad. I'm sorry, but this is just trash. So, garbage. But alright, whatever. Thornley. Yeah, I'm gonna put them in D tier. Honestly, one of those bands that I just instantly forgot after I listened to them, which probably showcases exactly why no one remembers a band named fucking Thornley. Like, again, that's another dumb name. So, ouch. No. That's all I've got to say, is they're just bland, they're forgettable, and they have a dumb name. So, I'm sorry, but I can't vibe with them. Alright, Tonic. Again. Just kind of similar to all these other bands in D tier here. Like, they just are the same. Just the same sounding, just boring and just bland sound. You know? Like, it's just so bland. I don't know how else to describe it. It's boring. So that's all I gotta say about Tonic. Do I need to say anything else? Do I? No, I don't. Exactly. So, no. Bad. Alright. Okay, next up is Train. Now, some people are going to be confused on exactly why Train is on this list. Well, they actually started off as post-grunge. People forget this, but they're self-titled, and Back to Jupiter, the album, those were post-grunge albums. Hell, even their third album, a little bit. Hold on, let me look it up. Or Drops of Jupiter, excuse me. Again, not to slander the name of the band, Train. Yeah. Train, they're self-titled, Drops of Jupiter, and My Private Nation. Those all count as post-grunge. It's kind of a similar situation with like Bare Naked Ladies, where it's like their early stuff counts as grunge, but they're more known as being a pop rock band. It's the same exact situation with Train. And unfortunately, they're not in the same level as Bare Naked Ladies. Not even close. I will admit this, though. They have a couple of okay songs. Like, there's kind of a reason why Drops of Jupiter is a guilty pleasure for a lot of people. I will admit it's even a guilty pleasure of mine. I think the song is fine. Even a few of the songs off of their first two albums are fine. I just hate that country mix they tried doing. Yes, they are one of the bands that, that are on this list that try to combine post-grunge with country music. And you guys, if you guys don't know, I don't like country at all. Again, it kind of goes with what I was saying earlier with that sort of Southern rock, Midwest rock, like rural America vibe that I just really feel uncomfortable around. That and also just modern country just sucks anyways. Don't at me. But yeah, no, like outside of just the one or two songs that they made, I don't care for Train. If we were talking about them in general, of course I would put them in F tier. There's no reason why they should be as big as they were. Like, they're just one of those bands that just got big off of one song, which admittedly is a good song, but just were never really able to really recapture the magic, and just, even then, just fully sold out by 2010. And yeah, we got freaking Hey Soul Sister out of that, and yeah, no, that song is garbage. Garbo. Like, yeah, they pulled the Maroon 5 before Maroon 5. I don't know how that's possible, but yeah, no, bad. Bad. Excuse me. Cringe. So, all right. Next up, Trust Company. Oh, actually, you know what? Both of these bands are going in the F tier. Yeah. Two one-hit wonders, where the one-hit wonders were so dog shit, and the rest of their discography is horrible as a result. So with Trust Company, they got big off of that one song because it was off of a bunch of popular video games at the time. It was kind of a new metal post-grunge hybrid. Yeah, Downfall. Yeah, that song was everywhere in 2002 and 3. And it was pretty cringe. Where it's like, fear in me so deep, it is the best of me. Like, it's so bad. Also, for whatever reason, freaking, I don't know why, but every time I watch that music video, or I see it off the corner of my eye or whatever, the lead singer just looks like Nicolas Cage. I don't know why, he just does. It's not Nicolas Cage, it's someone else, but I think it's funny that he looks like Nicolas Cage. But yeah, but honestly, the rest of their stuff is garbage. Like, yeah, their song Stronger just is so bad because it's like, feeling me again, it's so bad. Like, he can't sing her shit, and it's spanned throughout the rest of their discography, and it's horrible. It's truly dog shit. Like, I'm surprised they came out with an album in 2011. You would think they would have stopped it after 2005 and just, were like, fuck it, pack our shit, let's get the fuck out. But no, they tried a third time, and they failed miserably. And guess what? They paid the price, because no one remembers them outside of that song. And again, that song is just really bad. So, God, it was bad. Now, as for the Vines, again, this goes back into Hinder territory, where it's just absolute cringe. Because, what was that song that they were popular of? Hold on, I'm looking up. Again, I'm sorry if it looks like I don't know what I'm talking about. It's just, I had to go through so many bands. It was torture. Yeah, Get Free, where it's like, I wanna get free, I wanna get free, I wanna get... It's so bad. And I remember that song from back in the day, too. And I remember even hating it back then. It's like a curse that just never gets away from me. And it's horrible. It's truly just awful in every sense of the definition. No, please, just don't listen to the Vines. Like, because all their music is just that. If you liked Get Free, you might love the rest of their discography, but I can't stand that song. And I can't stand the rest of their, like, hard rock, butt rock bullshit. It's bad. It's really bad. I'm smiling because I'm cringing right now. It's not that, like, it's good. It's because I'm inside is an eternal, forever longing portion of cringe that will always just, reside in me because of that song. And it's horrible. Thankfully, though, as you can see, we left out 3 bands, 2 of which we talked about, and 1 that we have not talked about before. So let's start off with the band we haven't talked about before, Silverchair. So this is another Australian band, and you know what? At first, I didn't really get this band that much, but after listening to Frog Stomp, which I actually have the album of it now, and listening to that album entirely, and then going back into a lot of their other discography, fuck it, I'm putting them in S tier. Compared to all the crap that I had to listen to down here, oh yeah, you know, they're like freaking like Queen compared to everyone else. They are that good. Like, now granted, I know some people would also would genuinely call them a grunge band, but because they had their debut in 95, they don't really count, unfortunately. Though they are a band that, in comparison to everything else, I highly recommend to anyone. And honestly, I would put them amongst the top 3 of post-grunge. I mentioned this a little like in our first tier list, where, you know, I would put a few bands as the top 3 post-grunge bands. This, in my opinion, I think it's safe to say that this is like number 3. Because, like I said, Frog Stomp, in and of itself, is pretty good. Freak Show and Diorama and Neon Ballroom were also really damn good. So, granted, I will admit, Diorama and Young Modern, they're less post-grunge, and they ironically go into a more prog rock route, or prog rock sort of thing, which is an interesting, weird take that they went, but it's worth it because, honestly, compared to a lot of the crap that I listened to and just what I talked about, yeah, no, they're like I said, like Queen level, or like Rolling Stones level, or whatever classic rock fans love. Like, they are that damn good. And honestly, you know what? Fuck it. I'm also putting Chevelle up in S tier. So, I used to not care for this band, because I used to think that the name was dumb, because Chevelle, like, really? That just doesn't really roll off the tongue, right? And I still hold that The North Corridor is their weakest album, but after I went back and listened to Venecera, went back to listen to, Wonder What's Next, and then their 2011 record, and then to a bunch of, like, a lot of their deep cuts, and hell, even their newest album that dropped, like, last year, I can firmly say that their fusion of post-grunge with prog and electronic rock works way better into their benefit. And surprisingly enough, they are actually good live, because they were the other band that I actually saw with Kai whenever I was visiting him whenever I saw Korn and Code Orange. Yeah, because, yeah, Chevelle was touring with them at the time. And they are pretty... Oh, shoot. What's wrong with the camera? Oh, there we go. Sorry. There was a bit of a lag spike. But yeah, no, they were pretty good live. And honestly, I think they were better than Korn live. Like, so... And yeah, no, like, genuinely, I would put them as the number 2 spot. Granted, I don't know if I would put them in, like, I don't know if I'd put them in my, like, amongst, like, my favorite band. Well, okay, they're amongst one of my favorite bands of all time, but I don't think I would put them in top 10, but definitely in the top 30 for sure. They are that damn good. Sure, they are one of those bands that is a bit more niche, and at first it does seem like, yeah, they might at first seem like they're just another one of these type of bands, but trust me, once you get into their deep cuts, they are way better than not only do they have any right to be, but they even exceed a lot of the expectations that I had whenever I first listened to them. So go check them out. So, like, the Lawler brothers are pretty good at their craft. So, and like I said, their newest album was pretty good. I don't know if it's their best album, but it's definitely... It was better than the Day to Remember album that came out that same day. I still cry about that every single night, so... Dear. Alright, and then that pretty much leads us to the last band, and probably the band that, you know, I've been tiptoeing around the most. Foo Fighters. I think it's safe to say that they are just flat out the best post-grunge band. I can't think of any other band that's better than them. It's the Foo Fighters, man. It's, Dave Grohl, originally of Nirvana, working on his own, project. And while not every single one of their albums are amazing, as a matter of fact, I think recently they've been kind of sailing on the coattails of the Foo Fighters name. Everything that they've done between 1995 and 2011 has been gold. Like, there's a reason why they have been that they are a household name, and that they are, amongst one of the most cherished bands of all time. Now, rest in peace, the drummer, because unfortunately, they did pass away a little bit earlier this year. That does suck, unfortunately. Yeah. Taylor Hawkins unfortunately passed away earlier this year. So, rest in peace to him, and obviously condolences to their family. That being said, though, he was able to really work out his craft ever since he was introduced during the Color and the Shape era. Because, my God, like, their self-titled Color and the Shape, There Is Nothing Left to Lose, One by One, In Your Honor, Echo, Silence, Patience, and Grace, and Wasting Light easily warrant them being in the S tier. There is just no competition. Like, even Chevelle and Silverchair, as good as they are, do not hold a candle to what Foo Fighters has done. So, maybe Chevelle, but that's only because I'm a little bit biased. But, objectively speaking, Foo Fighters is the better band. So, yeah. We've got everything completed that's on the list. So, yeah, that's everything on the list. Yeah. You see where this is going. So, what's the secret band of the list, or the secret item, the secret menu item? So, hold on, let's see if I can get them. Saliva. I don't know about you, but I think this is the best. I think this is even better than Foo Fighters. Easily 20 out of 2 band. That's an even bigger ratio than a 10 out of 10. Amazing band. Best band ever. Best mix of rap, best mix of nu metal, best mix of post-grunge. Just totally the best band ever. Just easily the best band you've never heard outside of Your Disease and Click Click Boom. Okay, I'm joking. They're not up in that level at all. As a matter of fact, their post-grunge stuff is D tier. I'm not gonna lie, while I was doing this list, I completely forgot to add them. So, as a result, I forgot to add them because they actually count as post-grunge. They're more than just a nu metal band. But, although to be fair though, I think those songs are just laughably bad. But that's not the band I was originally going to do as the secret band. So, let's add them now. I'm being truthful when I say that, I forgot to add them. I completely flew off from my mind. So, all right, let's add the actual band this time. Though this one might be a bit contentious with people. Not so much as Primus being a nu metal band, but this might raise some questions. So, there it is. All right, so you guys know how much I actually really liked Stone Temple Pilots, right? So, that's Scott Weiland, right? Sorry. Again, I'm sorry. I'm like too many bands on the top of my head. Yeah, Scott Weiland. Rest in peace, of course, because he passed away in 2015. Well, did you know that there was a project that he did with several members of Guns N' Roses, as well as a band called Wasted Youth, called Velvet Revolver? So, yeah, there's only 2 albums that they made. And it was kind of an experimental project. It's similar to A Perfect Circle, honestly, in a lot of ways. And you know what? I think I'm going to give this one A tier, but a low A tier. So granted, before I get into exactly my reasoning, I do kind of want to talk about exactly like why I count this as post-grunge. So first of all, Scott Weiland, lead singer of Stone Temple Pilots, amongst one of the big 6 of post-grunge or regular grunge, right? So obviously connection right there. And then, but more importantly, like, yes, even though it consists of the members of Guns N' Roses, a lot of their music took more inspiration from what Stone Temple Pilots was doing, because Scott Weiland was pretty much the lead singer of this project. And that's pretty evident once you start comparing a lot of the stuff that Stone Temple Pilots did just a couple of years prior with Number 4 and Shangri-La. The music's actually not that dissimilar. So, though it does have that, Guns N' Roses flair to it, which is actually a pretty interesting mix. Granted, I'm not the biggest Guns N' Roses fan. As a matter of fact, I really hate Axl Rose. He's a piece of shit. Which is probably why all the former members went to do this project in the mid-2000s. So, but honestly, it's a project I respect. Is it the best project that like the individual members have worked on? No. Though Slash surprisingly did a pretty good job with, the guitar work, as, Slash typically does, And overall, it's solid enough for me to justify it putting it up in A tier. So that's all I've got to really say about Velvet Revolver, is that like it was a small 3-4 year project that some of the members of Guns N' Roses as well as Scott Weiland of Stone Temple Pilots worked on, and considering those are big names, they put as much talent as they could into this project. Granted, I think I prefer Perfect Circle and Audio Slave just a little bit over it. But I don't get it twisted. It's still a good project, and I would recommend it if you guys are interested. Even if it may not be exactly the most post-grungy sounding album, or really just grunge for that matter, it has enough elements that I can add it to the list and recommend it to anyone. So, but yeah, so that's it. Now, that is the post-grunge list and our final music list that we'll be doing for at least a year or two, because quite frankly, again, I really don't want to deal with the negativity anymore. So, but yeah, let's get a good shot. Let's get a good shot of all this. Yeah, look, dude, the fact that there's 2 rows for the bottom rows plus this really does showcase just how bad post-grunge got. And again, I might be a bit biased because I just really don't like post-grunge, but man, dude, that's an even worse ratio than like most of the other lists that we've done. I think nu metal is the only list that rivals it, but that's only because that one has more pictures compared to what's on this list. But regardless, though, I will always cherish the top 5 And even if I don't completely cherish a lot of the bands that are, in the A or the B tier, hell, even the C tier, I still at least respect them. And that's what matters. And regardless, we got another list done in less than 4 hours. So yay. We're making progress on time, and that makes me happy. So granted, I know I didn't really go as in detail as I have done before, but honestly, we've talked about a lot of these bands before in the past anyway, so I don't really need to say too much. Other than what I just need to reaffirm at the beginning of the stream. So we will still be doing the series. As a matter of fact, I've got another tier list planned whenever I do get back to university. Again, I'm still packing for that and, all that. But I will not be streaming for another week. So I do apologize for those who were expecting like another Let's Play series or just another like walk or just, me doing some like new stuff. I just want to make sure that I get over to college first before I'm able to go back into the grind. So that's why I've been kind of neglecting the past month. That and also just this stupid freaking air vent. I swear to God, it's been horrible. So again, I'm more about quality over quantity. So, but regardless, I hope you guys at least enjoyed this particular stream, and I hope we can all at least gain something out of this, because I know I did for sure. In any event, I'm going to be reading through the comments. If anyone has anything else to say, feel free to talk, because I'm sorry I've been ignoring chat. It's just, I just wanted to get this list done as fast as I can. And yes, I saw Sylveon was in the stream. Welcome back. I'm sorry I ignored you. Okay, like, I saw it pop up, but, okay. 500, oh, you were predicting the thing, bias. Yes, I'm biased. I know. Never heard of them. Oh, was that, yeah. Don't listen to the garbage band at the bottom, honestly. NXT, I don't know what that means. Strange joke I'm not getting. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you didn't get the joke. It's something it's a band we've talked about before on other lists, and I just think it's funny. So, perfect circle. Then I don't know what that means. I'm so sorry I ignored you. It's just I just wanted to get this list done, because honestly, I'm just so tired of just music lists, especially since I get a lot of backlash to these in comparison to my other lists. So yeah, that's always fun. But yeah, no, I think that's going to pretty much be it. Yeah, that's going to be it. So again, I'll be streaming again starting next Saturday. So stay tuned for that. And I hope you guys did enjoy this stream. If you guys made it to the end, you guys are absolute legends. And yeah, if you guys are interested in, this series that I've done, make sure to check out the videos. I have every single tier list that we've done saved as a VOD. And like I said, we recently just did a grunge tier list, so if you're interested in that, feel free to watch it. And if you guys are interested in watching more of these types of streams, or if you're just interested in watching some other gaming content, feel free to hit that follow button down below and turn on the bell icon so that you'll be notified exactly when I'll be streaming. While you guys are at it, make sure to check out the links down below as well, specifically the Discord and the SoundCloud. If you guys haven't already, you can also hit that subscribe button. If you can't necessarily do that, that's completely fine. I'm just glad I took time to watch this. But if you want incentive to subscribe, if you can reach 5 subscribers at any given point, you guys get to choose an open world game for me to play through. So that would be pretty cool to do. Make sure to share the stream around to other people as well, and continue to be awesome people. Until then, I'll see you guys next week, or whenever else. And yeah, I'll see you guys then. I'll see you guys later. I don't know how to end this, so because I don't do my peace outs on these, so take care, everyone. Goodbye.